Greetings, everyone. Welcome to episode 31 of the ITHRIVED Podcast. It is your boy, Sundin Esperance. Sorry, I was on the loose ends, just kind of handling some technical difficulties in life right now. But I'm back. Today, I got Miss Toya Harris.
Yes.
Miss Toya Harris, who was formerly, you were a lesbian.
Yes.
She was a lesbian in lifestyle. So we're going to talk about that. Before we begin, this podcast is sponsored by Je Veux Jouer. You can go on jeveuxjouer.ca. Je Veux Jouer is a program that teaches life skills through sports, through a variety of activities for youth. It's a program designed for youth. You can go on there. There's tutoring services, communication skills services, a lot of different services for youth. Also, this podcast is only linked and only affiliates itself with only one church, and that's First Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ, where the leader, teacher, and guide is Apostle Pastor Gino Jennings. If you want to go and hear the message, you can go on YouTube, simply type Gino Jennings. Also, I know as the pandemic's going on, you can tune in on Sundays. First service begins at 1 p.m. on a live webcast, and the second service at 6 p.m. if I'm correct. So, and you could also just tune in on YouTube. Whatever questions and stuff like that. I'm sure you could just type his name or whatever question it is, and you can tune on to it. All right. So we have Mrs. Toya, and once again, I'm obviously looking to be a bit broad within this podcast and speak on different things. I just have to always inform. I do not hate homosexuals. I don't want to, I'm not telling people to kill you. I'm not telling people to cut your throats off, or I'm not saying none of that. These podcasts are to educate the audience, or educate those who watch from outside of my audience, to understand of how people like Toya got into the lifestyle. I believe you're actually my first you're African American, I presume, right? Black African American woman. In terms, because everybody's experience is different, everybody's experience. But the reason why I say black is because, I just have to be plain. It's different when you're homosexual in a black community versus if you're white or maybe even Chinese or whatever the case is. Not all black communities are as responsive and, oh, okay, it's okay. We'll let you live that life. It's different. Some have it rough. You understand? So it's really, once again, I just have to let you know, I do not hate I do not hate. Just letting that plain. If somebody tells you he must hate homosexuals, this guy must want to kill homosexuals. No, I'm telling you right now, I don't hate you. So if somebody ever asks, just let them know he doesn't hate. He's just trying to educate. My days. Hey. I'll be a poet maybe one day. All right. Well, Miss Toya, the floor is yours, So please begin on kind of explaining who you are and how did everything start.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I have my notes here in case so I don't get too off topic. But back from the beginning, as young as I can remember, like I actually grew up with, both of my parents and everything. So at first, everything seemed seemingly normal. Mother and father married, and I had a sibling. But it wasn't until I was like 6 or 7 years old, I had an older cousin on my mother's side who began raping me. Oh. Now, when I was younger, I thought that it was called molestation because I had heard that word as I got older from people and on TV and stuff. But when I got older and I found out the difference, I found out that I was actually raped because they taught me that molestation meant just like fondling and touching certain areas. But I was actually penetrated by this person anally, orally, and, the vaginally for years. So,
and how old was this cousin?
He was about 10 years older than me. So he could have been about 17, 8, high school, 17, maybe 18 or something. So he was high school at least.
I'm sorry to hear
about
that.
10 years. Yeah. So, that's the first, to be honest, like now looking back what I know, that is what opened doors to like demons coming in, and also me having that like sexuality confusion, like, because I wasn't thinking about that kind of stuff at that age, of course, but it planted that seed. Because after those things started happening, that's when about like maybe 8 or 9, that's when it started happening, like with other little kids around me. Not actual penetration, but us doing like molestation things to each other, fondling with one another. So I don't know. It was like cousins of mine were like 8 or 9, and also like little kids, other people my age at school and stuff. So I'm not sure if that had happened to them or how they might have learned these things as well. And all around that same time, that's when a lot of our parents back then, they used to have like pornography in the houses. So it's like we had a babysitter, me and my brother, that introduced us to pornography. And we were still young. Like I probably was like 8 or something, and my brother was 3 years older than me, so he's like 11. So then after we were seeing pornography at like babysitter's house, cousin's house, then we ended up finding our own mom and dad's, tapes at home and stuff. And we would watch those things. He's like, hold on, you give me too much.
So your parents had sex tapes of themselves?
Oh yeah. Like, and as I went on in life and started talking to people, a lot of people's parents had that. So it's like, well, back then, with the little VCR.
Yeah.
They had the tape in there. So we would learn from like babysitters or older cousins, we would find the tapes, and my brother, he would like rewind the tapes back to, I guess, wherever they left it at, just so we wouldn't get caught. And he would hide it, and we would watch it when they were gone, Wow.
So this is like a common thing.
What I found out, when I started talking to people, I found out that their parents had pornography tapes or adult magazines.
Yeah.
And they were able to access those things. It's like they would actually hide them though. So it's like the devil was telling us where they were or something, because they would be like on a shelf or hidden in the closet or tucked in between a mattress. Like they're somewhere really clever, but we would find them.
That's crazy. And so within your cousin, how was he able to get you? Like, was he a trusted cousin?
That's a great question that you're asking. He was a trusted cousin, because every weekend we would go to, it was my great grandma's house we would go to every weekend, but he lived downstairs, like a different part of the building. Mm-hmm. So it was his mother and him lived downstairs and his siblings. So I was there every weekend. But that's a good question that you're asking, like how he was able to go about this. Yeah. It's like he started off small at first. At first he did start with the molestation. Like he would just like sit me on his lap. When I'm an adult.
That's crazy. Because something that's not spoken about. Like, right. Because something like my leader teaches on as well is no kid, no girl should be sitting on a man's lap and be like, stuff. But people see it in such innocence and stuff like that because you're a kid. And they're not realizing, but that's just crazy. Yeah. So as he started to do that,
and he would be aroused. Well, now looking back, I know he would be aroused while I'm sitting there.
And there's other people in front of you?
He's done it in a house full of people before. Because I'm just, and make it seem innocent because all the kids are playing around, all the cousins and stuff. And he's telling me to come over here and just sit on his lap. And I can feel that that's what's going on. Yeah. And then, started off, the little touching here and there. And that was what he did when we were at my great grandma's house, where all the people were around. Mm-hmm. But that summer, for the summer, my mom and dad needed him to babysit me and my brother because they both had to work at the same time. So what he did was he put my brother on the phone with like older girls. So at that time, I think when it started, all the molestation stuff, I was like 6 or 7. But that time when he came to visit us, I could have been 7, 8. Yeah. So if my brother was like 11, he could have been putting him on the phone with girls that were like 13, 14, trying to distract him. Yeah. So he would be on the phone with the girls that, in the living room, and then he would come in the room with me. The cousin would come in the room with me and leave my brother on the phone. Or he would tell my brother to go outside and play, which we're not supposed to do till my dad and mom got home. Yeah. My brother would be outside playing, and then he's in there touching me and stuff while my brother's outside playing.
And did your brother ever have, so let's say after a day of being babysat, did your brother ever ask you like, hey, what's going on?
Well, he didn't really ask me, because I think like how the devil comes in and tries to distract you. He distracted him so much for like, oh, look at this older girl. And he thought he was just having fun because he was 3 years older than me. So he thought, oh, I'm going to the pool with my friend. This is such a cool cousin because he's letting me go outside when daddy said I can't go outside.
Thinking about it, yeah. Okay.
No, he had no inclination. Maybe by him not going through that, he didn't have any thought to think about,
And as you said, he was a trusted cousin as well. Like, he's not going to think, why is he kind of, only taking her? and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's just wow.
Well, he thought of it. My brother probably thought, well, she's younger than me. That's why she can't go outside and play.
Yeah.
And she's a girl, and I can go outside and play. I'm older than her.
Yeah, that's great. And
That's
so, and during those times, like, did you like realize, yo, what's going on? You're not supposed to be doing this right now. Like,
I did. I now what I know is conviction. I immediately had that, like, because back then it was just like a little scared feeling. I could feel in the pit of my stomach, this is bad. And I would always feel that, and I would always be scared. So after the first time he did it, when he came into my room and he used to try to, I knew he was coming to do it. I used to try to be like, oh, let's play Nintendo. We had Nintendo back then. Yeah. And I would say, oh, here's the remote control. You want to play the game? Like, I would try to distract him to do other things, but he would continue to be like, no, I want to do this. You know?
That's crazy.
But I would try to make excuses or like, let's do something different, you know? And I always feel bad.
Yeah, you never really know what people are going through, you know? I mean, 6 or 7, that's tough right there.
Yeah. And he told me if I told that he would hurt my brother, and then he told me that my dad will go to jail. And this is important. I want to say this to parents out there because it's really common. You know, we're from Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
So it's really common out here that parents say, if somebody touch you, I'm going to go to jail. That's all you heard in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm born in 89. And all you heard was, if somebody hits you, I'm going to jail. If somebody touch you, I'm going to jail. If somebody... So when he actually told me, if you tell your dad's going to jail, I believed that my dad was really going to jail because I'd always heard my uncles, aunties, everybody saying, I'm going to jail if somebody touched my kid or so-and-so.
Yeah. Wow. And so, okay, so now 6, 7, 8, or 9. Now, what happened like afterwards? And how many times would you say he did this to you?
A lot of it I would try to black it out, but I can say at least as far as being penetrated and stuff, I can remember that happened at least 5 to 10 times. Nice. As much as I can remember it without blocking it out. Yeah. Because after that, you know, the summer is typically, well, in Illinois, Chicago, the summer is typically only about 2.5, 3 months, then it's cold again. So, I mean, and then school starts and stuff and it gets cold. So he only was there for that period of time. But when I would go to my great grandma's house on the weekends, I started staying away. Like since he lived in the downstairs apartment, I would stay upstairs with my great grandma. And then when I had to go downstairs, I made sure it was a lot of people in the house. Like he had siblings too, older siblings. I made sure they were all there. And he used to try to call me in the house and be like, oh, come here. And I wouldn't come. I would just stand by the door. So he couldn't really, you know, I kind of was able to like, okay, this is going to stop. I was starting to get older. And I was like, no, you know.
Yeah. Okay. And then so from, you said like 8 or 9. So what happened?
That's probably when it stopped.
That's when it stopped? 8 or like 9 years old?
It's probably around when it stopped. Because when he came for that summer to our house, I probably was like between 6 and 7. Or 6 and 7 when he started the molestation. But actually the penetration and stuff, I could have been about 8. But when I got like about 9-ish, 10-ish, that's when it completely stopped because I was old enough to say, I'm not coming in the house with you. And I just started putting my foot down and being like, no.
Yeah. And did you try to let somebody know?
I didn't. I think one time when I was young, I did tell my brother. And I remember this vividly because I remember sitting in the truck and I told my brother, and my cousin said that I was lying. And my brother, he kind of sat there and he kind of looked as if he was thinking like, this sounds crazy, but then he didn't know who to believe. It's almost like he didn't know who to believe. So that actually suppressed me from telling anybody because it's like, okay, when I did try to tell, nobody believed me. Yeah. And also this threat of my dad. Exactly. And the enemy, Satan was telling me that now I know it's Satan. If I told anybody, I would be the problem. I would divide the whole family. Mm-hmm. It'd be my fault that the whole family is at war against each other.
Yeah. Wow. And so when you started putting your foot down,
right?
Did, other, seeds started to become planted.
I'm sorry, say that again.
When like now that you started to put your foot down, you're 9, when did other seeds begin to get planted?
Oh, okay, thank
you. Were exposed to pornography, you're exposed to seeing your own parents on like I don't know how or what that can do to somebody. I don't even want to imagine.
They weren't on the tapes, thank goodness. My parents, they weren't doing the pornography. They just
they just had tapes.
Yeah. They bought the tapes with other people on them.
Okay.
Yeah. So they went to the store or back then people used to sell them out of their trunks. They used to make them off the internet somewhere. So I didn't get to see them in the act, thank God.
Okay.
But I see other people, you know, other people, all types of people, different things like that from the tapes they would get, the movies.
Okay. So what happened?
They weren't the stars in the movie.
Perfect. No, because a recent one, it was his actual parents.
It can happen though, because we know people do record themselves doing those things. So
Okay,
but I'm sorry for that person who's experienced that.
Okay.
So after and remember what I said too, another seed was incest, because remember, after me being exposed to these things, cousins and I were experimenting together. They are the same age. So me and other 8-year-old girls are like fondling and kissing each other and stuff. And same thing with cousins that are like 8-9-year-old boys and girls. So that's seeds of incest being planted. We're young and we're practicing out what we saw in those pornography movies or what somebody else did to us that's older.
Yeah.
So then when I get to about 11, I remember I was thinking that this desire was normal at this point. So I was with a group of friends and we seen a tomboy. What is a girl who you know looks more like, dresses more like a boy and plays all the sports with the boys and stuff. And they were making fun of her. They were like, "Oh, she's gay. She's going to hell." So then I never told them how I felt, because I was like, "Oh man." Because my dad, when we were little, he taught us how to pray. He took us to the church. So I had heard before about homosexuality, you know, people, homosexuals going to hell and stuff. So when they said it, it was just like, oh, I'm staying away from that. So 11, almost 12, my parents actually separated. Well, they call it divorce, but, you know, we know there's no such thing as divorce. So they separated back when I was like 11 or 12. So now it's like, once my dad and mom separated and he left the house, it's like Satan, he literally had his hand over our entire household at that point. Because after that, that's when my life got horrible. After that, him taking him out of the home.
Wow.
So at that point, we started moving a lot. I was living with my mom and like different men and stuff, like her boyfriends and things like that. And the first house we went to go live at, my brother didn't come. He stayed with my cousins them. Remember, he's like 3 years older than me, but 4 grades older, so higher. So he can kind of have a little more freedom. So when we were living with that man, the first man, his son came into my bedroom and proceeded to pull his genital out. And he was telling me to do things. I didn't do it, but he was telling me to do things. And I didn't tell my mom about it because at that time when I was trying to tell her that I didn't like being there, I was uncomfortable, she just said, well, you and your brother are just trying to mess things up because you just want me and your dad back together. So I knew she wouldn't believe me. So I just started staying at my friend's house a lot.
And at that, how old were you when he did that?
I was 12.
And how old was he?
He could have been 14 or 15. He was a couple grades older.
Okay. Yeah. And why? It seemed like you were like a person that was attacked a lot. It was just, it's like, you know, wow. Like, how does, man, that's just, in terms of that time, like, of seeing another man come, like, what's even going into your mind? Do you think like, yo, what's going on? You know, and let me try to hurt this guy, like in a situation like that. You know,
it was scary for me, you know, because I mean, they were strangers to me. Like, I don't know how long my mom knew this guy, like if she was talking to him on the low or whatever, but I didn't know them long. I might have met them the day I moved in. So I didn't know them at all. So they just felt like strangers to me. So I was, you know, scared and shocked that, you know, to even be asked that. Because after I told this guy no, after that, he started treating me really mean. We actually got into a fist fight. He jumped on me one day, but I fought back.
Okay.
And typically, I used to be scared. I never liked to fight and stand up for myself. But remember, I was telling you, I started putting my foot down. I started standing up for myself.
Yeah.
So it was just weird how once I stood up for myself and said no, then he started being mean to me and he attacked me. And my mom, she kind of blamed us after he attacked me and we fought. that's when the guy wanted us to go. My mom was like, oh, it's your fault because you and your brother don't want me to be happy. You guys are ruining everything. So I just kind of basically felt guilty and stayed at my friend's house.
Okay. Or like started to live at your friend's house?
Well, I was there. So I was spending the night at her house even on school days. Like, her mother would take me to school, pick me up. So probably 4 or 5 days out the week, I would stay at that friend's house.
And since you were 6 up to that age, 11 or 12, did your mom or dad ever ask you if you've ever been touched or if you've ever been like raped? Did they ever ask you any of those questions?
Well, I know my dad, he would say when we were younger, he would be like, tell me if anybody touched you. I can say my dad would say that. He would say, tell me if anybody touched you. But I still had that fear. And one thing I do want to say about a kid being molested and raped is you feel so much filth and shame. It's like, well, you know, it's the devil trying to make you feel like that. But and then the main thing the devil tells you, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble. You were doing it too. So you just get this fear of like, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm disgusting. I'm nasty. So you just press it down and you don't tell anybody.
Okay. I see.
But he actually did ask.
He did ask. Okay. But that was like at 6 or 7. There was never, like, he never asked afterwards after that, or?
After they actually separated, it's like he became more about the family that he was, the adulterous relationship that he was within. I didn't get to see my dad much. I might have saw him a couple times a month at the beginning, and then it got more scarce. And he lived about 40 minutes away. So I didn't see him much anymore. So that's why I was saying when the devil came and broke that up, it was like, when my dad was in the house, we had rules and structure. Like my brother had to get off the phone at a certain time. We had a bedtime. We had dinner together as a family. But after he was out the house, my brother on the phone with girls all the time at night, come in when he wants to come in. Nobody's watching me. I'm taking care of myself. So it really went downhill from there.
Wow. And you're only like 11, 12 years old. Right? And so what happens after that?
So now that brings us to age 13. So when I got to, we had moved again, because remember the man wanted us there after we got into it. So we ended up getting a place with just me, my mom, and my brother. So I thought that was great because the school was close and everything. So at that point, like I said, my brother, now he's in high school, so he's doing his own thing. My mom's working or she's with whatever guy, and I'm by myself. So now that I'm 13, I'm, like exposed to different friends, to different circles and things like that. And at 13, I met a guy who was like 15. And at that point, we had like a little small relationship or whatever. And at that age, I actually lose my virginity at 13. So that's me being exposed to more sexual moral things, if you want to, So now fornication's in my life, even though, after all the stuff happening, now I've welcomed fornication into my life. So I'm still having this confusion of, sexuality and things. But at this point, like I said, I'm suppressing it and I'm trying to just do what everyone else around me is basically doing. So at that time, my mom meets another man. And then when this man comes in, it shakes up our entire foundation, because now he's saying that we have to move away. My mom is saying we have to move away with this strange guy and leave our school areas and everything like that and go far away. Like, not, like 40 minutes away. So now what I'm dealing with my mom, I'm dealing with almost like an absent mom now, because it's like, she's always with this man. He has no interest in her kids. He didn't ever want to be like a stepfather or anything like that to us. I was fending for myself. Like when we moved into Chicago, I'm like 13 years old and 13, 14 out on the block with guys that are like 19 and 21. Hanging out on the street corners with them, some of them selling drugs, whatever. And I'm out to like 3, 4 in the morning, and my mom doesn't care.
Wow. And you said you're 14 that time?
13, 14,
These other men, like boys, 19, 20.
19, 21.
21 years old. That is crazy.
Just out there, me and my cousins, and just because they knew when they came to my house, since my mama didn't care, we can do whatever we want to do. So we're out there. And that's what I'm sharing this to show. Like, even though my mother physically lived in the house with me, physically provided for me to have food and shelter, she still was an absent parent. Because when I came to her, like when I said about the whole virginity thing at 13, she found out my favorite cousin lost her virginity, and she told us, well, just go get birth control. I'll take you guys to get birth control because you guys are going to do it anyways. Wow. Never had a sex talk. Never had nobody tell me to wait till I get married.
Yeah.
She took me to get the stuff.
That is, I just don't understand some parents sometimes. Sometimes that's why I say certain kids, yes, it could be, their faults, but a lot of parents, they have a lot of blame to take, and something you said being the fact that you're on the street at 14 years old with men 19, 20, 21 years old, anything could happen. Me, and when I was like that age, my mom would probably call me 10 times. 10 times. I have like 30 missed voice messages. Where are you? Hey, where are you? You better get home now.
That means she love you.
Probably like 8:30 p.m. Not even 12. Where are you? Where are you? Because my background is Haiti. And so back there, it's like it's structured. You wake up early, you better be on time and early. So the fact that I can't even imagine what would have happened to me if I'm on the street 14. It would be impossible. If I'm walking out the house, where you going? Huh? Where you going? With who? What? No. I had a dream. You get up to go. So it was crazy. That is just crazy. And so a lot of parents, man, if there's parents watching this, like I said, a kid is a kid and kid has their faults. But a lot of the times it's the parents, they don't take blame. They don't want to take blame. It's like, oh, I'm feeding you, I'm sheltering you, I'm giving you clothes. That's it. I don't have to have these sex conversations with you. I don't have to tell you how to, woman up and stuff like that. I don't have to tell my son, listen, stay away. I don't have to tell you, I'll wait for marriage and stuff. I don't have to tell you all that. And when things happen, the fact that you went to her at 13, we're not talking about 18, we're not talking about 19. 13 years old. You go to your mom, I lost my virginity. Man, all right, let's go get birth control. What?
I was on birth control since I was from 13 until like 18 or something about that. Yeah. She used to take me to the clinic. We used to lead a little clinic with a bag full of condoms. It used to be a bag full, contraceptives, that's what I'm gonna say that a little better for y'all. Had a bag full of them, and she put me on the pill at that age, and then later on I got on the patch.
That I don't know even what to say. It's
you ain't heard nothing yet.
Oh my God! I didn't hear nothing yet.
That's why I got my book, so I don't forget nothing.
Okay, keep going.
And you know what? It's too, you got to pay attention to your kids, because at that age of 13, the devil, the way how he got me was he kept putting trauma on me. How you kept saying a lot. I went through, like I said, at 13 with the virginity thing. I had a friend that got snatched in front of me. He tried to kidnap her. We were walking, and this man tried to kidnap my friend in front of me. So that created trauma and more and like fear and stuff into me. Mm-hmm. And then at that age too, I don't know if you know about Chicago, it's a lot of killings all the time. My uncle was murdered. So it was just a lot of traumatic things that was kept happening back and forth. And then not having that stability, because anytime a man wanted my mom to move, it's like we just moved. So it was like I was going through all of that. And then about 14, like I was saying, when I was hanging out on the blocks and stuff, I started smoking weed. I had tried it and things like that. And obviously hanging out with guys that's 19 and 21, they're not just hanging out with me to watch Nickelodeon. So I'm doing things with these older guys and stuff like that too. And like I said, not having a parent who's like, and the craziest thing is, when I was talking to the 21-year-old guy, my mother actually met him, because I lied and told the guys that I was like gonna be 17 or something. I lied about my age, but she actually knew his real age, and she didn't even say anything about it.
That's crazy. And you were 14 at that time.
I was 14, but I told him I was gonna be 17. Yeah.
Did your mom have you like when she was young or something, or?
Actually, no. I think my mom was like 25 or 26, about 25. She was older, not too young. Yeah.
Oh, I just wait. So when you were 14, your mom was 25?
No. She birthed me at like, she got pregnant with me when she was like
25, 20. Oh my.
So she probably was like 36 or 30, somewhere around there.
That just is wow, man.
Yeah.
So hold on a second. She even met the guy
She's met him, yeah.
Knew that he was 21.
Yeah.
And yet she didn't say nothing at all.
Nothing. The only person I had to keep secrets from was my brother, because when we lived out there, because after I had, lost my virginity and everything, that's when I started thinking that sex meant love. So I would just think, because nobody ever taught me. So I would think, if someone likes you or that's your boyfriend, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And there were some guys that went to high school with my brother that I ended up doing that with, and he actually he asked me about one person because he knew that person. He I thought they were like kind of friends and went to school together. And I denied it because I was scared. And I knew my brother cared too, because in my diary, I wrote that I had lost something special. And my brother went under my bed and read it. And he showed my mom. He said, "Mom, what's this she's talking about? She think I'm stupid. What she lose special?" But my mother didn't chastise me. She just told him, just give her diary back. So I would keep secrets from him, but that was it.
Okay.
But when she moved us with this man, my brother would refuse to come. He would refuse to live in the house with these men. Yeah. So he moved in with my grandma. Okay. So that's why I was able to get away with these type of things, because he lived with my grandma. He refused to live with another man.
Yeah. No, I understand. It's tough. It's not your dad, and that just gets complicated sometimes.
But it kind of left me vulnerable with these people,
Yeah.
So then after experiencing all that stuff, this man and my mom, they decided it would be a great idea to move to Hawaii. Now, if you look at the map from Chicago to Hawaii, one thing for sure is that I'm not going to get to see my dad being way out there. Mm-hmm. And all of my family is from Chicago, some in the South, but mostly Chicago. And then again, my brother is refusing to come because he was 17, he had just graduated. Mm. So now they have taken me from everything I known and moved me to Hawaii, her and this guy. So that's when, to me, life got really bad, because now it's like I can't see my dad, and the guy she was with, it was almost just like, get her out of my hair. Mm-hmm. I don't care what she does or who she does this with. I just don't want her in my face.
That's crazy.
So when I was there, it's like, that's when I started being abused by, the man didn't abuse me when I was in Chicago, because like I said, my dad was not too far away. Yeah. But when I got to Hawaii, that's when he started, not physically, emotionally and verbally abusing me, the guy that she was with.
So like, what would he be telling you?
He would tell me I was nothing, I was evil, I wasn't going to be anything. Your mother was even going to abort you. You shouldn't even be here.
That's crazy. And what did your mom know about that?
I told my mom. My mom knew about it. She would just be like, "Oh, just try not to cause any stress, try not to cause any commotions. You and your brother, you're always messing up stuff for me." And he because he didn't work. He had disability. So he was home all day. My mother was working 2 jobs. So he would do these things to me when I got out of school. Yeah. Up until I got home at like 3:30. She didn't get home till 11:30. So sometimes he would drill me from 3:30 all the way to 11:30 till she walked through that door. Wow.
And what was his disability?
He had sickle cell anemia.
So like, what is that like? Is it like a?
I never knew. I think it's it attacks your blood or something.
Oh. But he was able to walk and be active though.
Yeah. She met him at work. She met him when they worked at the post office. But I guess he just used that as an excuse of why he wanted to stay home. He was like doing stock market and stuff like that. Yeah. But he would drill me the whole time. Mm. So I'm just telling you the story to lead to what happened next. Mm. By him doing this and my mother not protecting me. One thing about my mom, she always told me, what goes on in this house stays in this house. Okay. So I wasn't calling my dad and grandma back in Chicago like, "Oh, this man is abusing me. Mm-hmm. My mom's not helping me." Mm. But she would always tell me, "Don't tell your dad. Don't tell your brother. This is our business." So now I'm suppressed, trying to keep all this stuff to myself. Like when I was young, don't tell. Mm-hmm. I'm used to not telling. So now at this point, I'm thinking like, well, what am I going to do? Yeah. So what did I do? Like when I was in Chicago, I went out and hung out with older guys. And so when I was out there, when I was like, at this time, now I'm 15. And I started hanging out with, I met this guy. He was older. He was like a drug dealer. So now I'd be introduced to these other things, because when I would try to hang out with my school friends, like you were saying, they had to be in before 8:30. So I'm like, okay, that's not going to help me, because I still need until almost 12 so my mom gets off work. If I go home early, this man is going to start abusing me. Yeah. So I start hanging out with older guys because they didn't have a curfew. Mm-hmm. So to stop the abuse, I would leave the house early in the morning before school, and I would stay out all the way to midnight so that I got home after my mom got home from work, so that he couldn't bother me. That's the way, one of the ways that I did it.
Yeah. Okay. I see. And the thing I wanted to touch on, for those of you listening, when Toya mentioned, if a parent tells you whatever happens in this house stays in this house, there's has to be a certain law, certain degree to that. If, for example, like maybe an argument, just a simple dispute, like you don't have to, don't tell your business and out there and stuff like that. But when it comes to about abuse,
right,
that's what she means, and you need to go and say something if you're really getting abused. But if it's like stuff, common things, you just got a nice whooping, don't go call 911. Don't, you gotta, whatever the case is, there's something that happened, is that happened to your mom or this may happen to your dad, whatever the case is, that could be kept in the house. But in terms of if you're being abused, because I don't want any of you to even have any excuse to say, oh, well, my mom is telling me that now, my dad is telling me that. No, if you're getting abused by anybody, I don't care if it's the most trusted cousin in the entire world. I don't care if the cousin's a president. I don't care if you tell and it's going to make him lose his scholarships or it's going to make her lose her scholarships or whatever the case is. Open up find somebody. There's, in your case though, Toya, it's tough because now, and this is why some kids want to stay outside the house. They don't want to go home to that toxicness. That's why I say it's not always the kid's fault. There's always a reason why. I know kids like myself. I would love to be at home. I never had no problem where I want to get. I never had that issue. But when you're going, who wants to hear that from 3:30 to 11? You're not going to be nothing. You're not going to be. Who really wants to hear that? So now when we look at a girl that's 15, what people will see, oh man, this girl's 15, has no respect for her mother, has no respect for, but they don't know because that's how people think a lot of the times, So it's very important that those of you, if when it comes to something like this, it's so tough because during that time, it's like me, I remember I'm 15, I'm not going through things like that. So that's why hearing what you're saying is, I'm in disbelief that I know, kids, we go through stuff, but I didn't know they go through all of that from 6 years old, from 6. Continue on. Go ahead. Continue on.
So now, like I said before, by me being 15 and hanging out with, because the guy that I was hanging out with, he could have been about 19, 20, but since he's 20, he's hanging out with older guys. So he's hanging out with guys that are like 30, 35, because he's looking up to them like older guys. So by me hanging out with him and staying out to these times of night to 12 o'clock, that's just the weekdays. That's school days now. When it came to the weekends, I would hang out with this guy sometimes till 4 or 5 in the morning. And then they had this after club. That's nothing. I was going to the clubs when I was 15 because he knew the people who used to get me in. So I'm being exposed to all these adults, all this alcohol, I'm seeing drugs. And the thing about it is on the weekends, the club would close at 4, but we went to an after spot we used to go to. And sometimes it wouldn't get out to 7:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Drinks, drugs, all that. And I'm still 15. So I'm being exposed to all these sinful things. Like at the time, I wasn't doing all the drugs I was seeing. I was seeing people do like cocaine and stuff around me, ecstasy. But at the time, I was just smoking weed and they were drinking and stuff. But it was a speed because later in life, I end up doing those things. So I'm watching these things. I'm around 15. I'm around strippers, drug dealers, prostitutes, because the guy that I was talking to at that time, he was a drug dealer, and the older guys he was hanging out with, they were pimps.
Wow.
So I'm hanging out with the pimps and drug dealers at 15 because I don't want to go home.
Yeah. And they knew you were 15.
Yeah, he used to pick me up from school. Because
the teachers there, I know over here today, there's like a sign-in sheet. Did they have that stuff back in the day?
Not in high school. He picked me up after school, so.
No, so say for example, someone's coming, like me to high school when I was at, where if someone's coming to pick you up, they come inside, they sign, or he would just wait outside and you would just go
outside. Yeah, they care about y'all. They don't care about what's over here.
Canada now.
I mean, we're elementary school, yes. Like if they have to sign us out or make sure we get on the right bus or caretaker. But high school is kind of like whatever. When that bell goes off, if you're a bus rider, you better be in that line or you're going to miss your bus. And if you miss your bus, either you call your parent to pick you up or you walk home.
Yeah.
So in high school, it's like as soon as that bell goes off, all they're worried about is getting that parking lot empty. Get y'all cars out of here, empty that parking lot. So when he would pick me up, it was other cars in the parking lot too. I'm just walking to the car and that's it.
And people aren't gonna think something. They're probably thinking he's your older. Like, was he black or?
He was black. Yeah, he was black.
So
well, they thought he was cool. They thought he was cool because he was a drug dealer. So a lot of the teenagers actually already knew him because he graduated from that high school. And I think he's like 4 or 5 years older than me. So he had graduated. Okay. And that's another thing. At that time, he even had me selling drugs for him to the students at school, some of the students.
And so they never asked, like, what are you doing with him or anything like that?
Nope.
They just, okay, wow, I don't know.
Yes,
high school I went to was different, bro.
They actually care. I mean, I'm sure by me being that young, they probably had a lot of rumors about me. She's this, she's that, you know. But a lot of them, and it's actually bad because it's like the enemy uses these things for sin to look like it's glorified. Because some of the girls actually thought, oh, I want him to be my boyfriend too. You know, they would actually go over there and try to talk to him like, whatever you guys were into, I want to do this stuff too. Like when I wasn't at the car, I'd come to the car sometimes and see him standing at the window. So they seen it as like a glorifying thing. But I was always I was going through a lot at home. I was always tired, coming in after 12 and getting up by 6 to get out. So I was always kind of quiet in the background. I didn't really like a lot of attention. So they seen it as, oh, she's doing this for fun. But really, I'm doing this stuff to survive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I didn't really make a big fuss. I didn't really tell people at school. I didn't say, oh, I'm hanging out with the popular drug dealer guys. I didn't mention it. They didn't know unless they see me in that parking lot walking to his car.
Oh, okay.
I didn't tell people.
All right. And then from there, so he's picking you up. Now, the pimps he's with, they know that you're 15. You're exposed to strippers and alcohol and all these things at 15 years old. What happens from there?
Well, from there, and that's another thing. Also, guns and stuff too. He used to have guns and stuff, and in the trunk when we used to transfer back in places. So I thank God for never getting in trouble for something like that, because after that, he actually got arrested with guns in the truck and went to jail. And I know I could have gotten in trouble because I stopped talking to him because he told me he was going to become a pimp. So I stopped talking to him right then and there. Yeah. So I would think things would get better. But then after that point at school, that's when I stopped suppressing it. I'm like, okay, well, now I'm in Hawaii. Nobody will know. I can start talking to this girl at my school. So we started, I was feeling convicted though, because when we started talking like homosexually and everything, it was like 8 months before we actually decided to say we would date each other, because I was feeling, now that I know the word is convicted, I was like, oh, what are people gonna think? And, you know, I was feeling a pulling of not doing this, but me and her would still talk, and that door was kind of open, you know, I would hang out with her and things like that, but I didn't actually go forth and pursuing it, like making it a public thing, because I was kind of embarrassed about it. But at the same time, I was getting that comfort of, now what I know is probably not having that mother's love and that nourishment, because even though she was young, she didn't come from a background like me. Yeah. She came from a background like you. Like she had, I don't know your full background, but from what you're saying, as far as like structure and parents, she had parents, she had structure that cared about her. She had a curfew. They would cook for her. My mother didn't really cook for me. So when I met her and stuff, she was doing those things for me, like cooking for me, asking how I was. So to me, I thought, oh, this must be the way. Really, it was just that nourishment that I was lacking and missing. Now I'm talking to her, but I'm keeping it a secret because I'm afraid. Yeah. And at that time, now what I know it is, at 16, that's when the devil sent an agent of Satan to me. This guy, he was like a demon in disguise. And the way how I ended up with him was because things started getting bad again at home with the stepdad, because after the drug dealer got arrested, I wasn't able to stay out late in the streets anymore, because I wasn't going to hang out with those other people without him, because they were actually pimps. I wasn't trying to be put into that lifestyle. Yeah. So now I'm back home and hanging out with people that got to go in at 8:30. So now it's happening again and it's getting worse. So now I'm trying to strategize what I can do. So some nights I would just stay in my car, like sleep in my car, like nap until she got off work. I would just sit in the parking lot and stay in my car. But then some nights I would just go home because I was just so tired. So it started getting worse and worse and worse. And at this time, I met this guy who had moved out there, and he came off as a nice person. Like nothing was seemingly wrong with him, you know, and I started going to his house a lot, just hanging out.
Yeah.
He was already out of high school, so he didn't have a curfew or anything like that. So now I'm over there all the time, and his mother was in the military, and she told me that I could move in there. So now I'm like 16, going on 17 in the middle, and they tell me I can move in there. So I'm there all the time, and I'm thinking, this is great. Now I don't have to stay outside late, sleep outside, figure out what I'm going to do. But then, and at the same time, I'm still talking to this girl in secret. And then eventually it was publicly. But then in this situation, this guy started like stalking me. He started controlling me. He started beating me up. He tried to kill me many of times, like by choking me until I couldn't breathe. I had to go to the hospital. One time he's put a plastic bag over, I was leaving, like telling him, you know, I didn't want to continue on and having a relationship. And he told me, that's fine, I can come and pack my things. Because at this point, I'm starting to see it's bad at home, but it's worse, it's getting really bad here. He's hitting me, he's controlling me. So now I'm like, okay, I'd rather take my chances back at home. So one time I was gonna leave, and I was packing my clothes in bags, and he took a plastic bag and put it over my head and started choking me. And like, oh, you're leaving, huh? And I try to move my head to say, I'll stay. And he takes the plastic bag off, and I'm just praying like, God, please don't kill me. I don't want to die. I don't see my life ending like this. But it was really to the point where I almost had no more breath in me. It stopped. So now I'm dealing with this situation. So I mean, I feel like I just can't get a break, you know. It's like I'm dealing with this person. If I leave, he'll stalk me. He'll come to my school. One time I came out of my house because I went back with my mom, because now my mom leaves this stepdad while I'm in the process of living with this guy, and she gets with a woman. So now.
So wait, she left him, and now she's with a woman now.
Yep.
But in that midst, were you public with the girl you were with?
I had became public. I had told her about it, I think maybe a year before that. And that's another thing. She had found out because the girl used to buy me gifts and do things for me. And she left me a card. And on the card, she said something along the lines that we're dating. My mother saw it, and she asked me. So when she asked me, I got fearful, thinking she's going to correct me, you know, because like I said, my dad took us to church as kids, and we knew about God and everything. But instead, she told me, oh, that's fine. It's no problem. It's no problem. You know, you can love who you want to love. Like, basically, she didn't even correct me. At all.
I just, I don't know what to say. It's when it comes to your situation, it looks like, man, you just had no guidance, no nothing at all. And I think you were expecting it, because that's what every kid expects, you know, like that fear of, like me, when I used to get in trouble from school, sometimes I used to start crying on the bus before I even got home. You know, I'm just looking out the window, this and that. Yo, Sundin, you good? Yo, no, not today, bro. Not today. When I go home, it's gonna go down. You know, it's gonna go down. And so it's for you. It's to the point where it's like you were literally just, hey, go ahead, do whatever you want. You know, a lifestyle which so many kids desire, so many kids want, but they don't understand. Some people don't have it, and you know, it's not, you know, easy. It's not the lifestyle you want to do. So now from that time, you go to her.
And I did want to say too, before she left with this guy would tell her to whoop me, like beat me for no reason, and she would actually do it. And I remember one time she kept asking me, why is your behavior like this? Why are you this way? And I told her about what the cousin had did to me. That guy came in, the stepdad came in, and he told me I was a liar, I was looking for attention. And then my mom, she told me not to tell my dad and not to tell my brother. And that really affected me, because at that time, guess who my brother's favorite cousin was? So every time my brother called me, I was traumatized again. Yep.
I just, my days. So you mean to tell me now, the one that abused you, the one that just hurt you, Not only physically, because that damage, look, I tell people, if I could pinch you on your arm, you may feel it, it rubs off. There's damage you can do to somebody at 6 years old, and it damages them in their mind for the rest of their life. So now here the person that damaged you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all these things.
Everything, yeah.
Now the one that is like, man, you know what? I'm gonna go to the one that, you know, I know that's protective of me. I know that. Wait, bro, that's your favorite cousin?
Yeah, because see, I never told him. She told me not to tell him. So
I know. So, but he knew what he was doing. Your cousin knew what he was doing.
Exactly. And he bragged about him all the time. My brother will be on the phone like, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. I'm at his house. He's teaching me this, he's teaching me that. He's so cool. So I'm just like, okay, you know, this is ridiculous. And then my mother, she knew. I told her. She told me not to tell my dad and my brother. So I had to put up with this when he would call me.
You told your mother. And when it comes to girls, little girls, it's always expected for the woman. You know, the dad has to be your protector. Dad has to protect you and all that. It's protecting the family. But, you know, there's certain conversations as between daughter, you know, and mother and whatnot.
Right.
And you go and tell your own mother, Mom, this is what cousin so, and it was from her side of the family.
Yeah.
Mom, this is what cousin so-and-so did to me. And she said, okay, don't tell your brother or don't tell your father. The ones that she knew would have done something. She knew would, and she just let it go like that.
That's it. She told me, don't tell them. She took me, I had found a counselor on TV that I had seen it on a commercial. She took me one time and she was saying how it wasn't really working and how it was expensive. So I never went back to counseling again at that time. And then also when she was with this guy, when I had to come home for that short period of time, or no, this is before, kind of in between when I was hanging out with the drug dealer, he was just so fed up with me because now that he had nothing to accuse me about because I was always gone, he told my mom to send me to like a boarding school, like a school where I would have to live there and wouldn't have to be able to come back until I was 18.
Okay.
So that traumatized me too, because it was just kind of like, I'm trying to stay out of your hair as much as possible and you're still trying to send me away. So that's another factor I forgot to tell you is why I stayed gone so much, because I was hoping that they would change their mind about sending me away to that school. I stayed out the way.
Oh, so you did end up getting sent to the boarding school?
No, they didn't. That's when I strategized more about if you don't have nowhere to go, sleep in your car, figure it out, but just don't come home.
That is crazy. And so now, from the midst of all that time, you know, you tell your mom this and you find out that that's your brother's favorite cousin. What happens from there?
Well, from there, I just felt more so like I just started. That's how I learned at a young age to just suppress my feelings, suppress everything. You don't matter. Your feelings aren't important. You aren't important because, you know, I just kind of felt like you guys are, you know, he glorifies this person so much. And I feel like even if I did tell, would it even matter? Would I even be believed? And so then it's just like, I'm not going to say anything, just kind of talk to my brother a little less at that time. And he kind of bragged about him a lot. My mother didn't really talk about it. She didn't really go into detail. She didn't really ask me much. It was like, she just kind of wanted it to go away. That's the kind of person she is. She just believes like, if we just don't talk about it for a couple of days or a couple of months, it's just going to disappear. Like that's her way. So, you know, I had a lot of resentment, you know, and things towards her too, moving us away and all the things that she was doing. So that's why, like when I was stuck into that relationship, when I was from 16 to 18 with the guy beating me, people would say things, you know, I would hear rumors like, oh, she's dumb, she's stupid. But at the end of the day, it's like Satan used this because even though that guy was beating me and stuff, his mother would do things with me. She would spend time with me. I would go places with her. She would cook for me. Like she would call me in the morning and be like, oh, I'm cooking breakfast. You want to come over? Because my mama didn't cook for me. Yeah. And she got with that guy. It was like, fend for yourself. Eat frozen food, eat TV dinners, whatever. So she would cook for me. So I liked being around his mom. And then the guy, even though he was as horrible as he was nice sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm just so used to abuse that it was like any little bit of niceness you give me, any little bit of comfort you would have given me, okay, I'm just going to hold on to that. Yeah. And that's what made me keep going back to the guy, despite all that stuff that was going on.
Okay. And so now that, you know, your mom is lesbian and she knows that, you know, you're in a lesbian relationship, what happens from there?
Well, so when she gets with a lady that's in the Navy. Same thing as usual. Nothing changed. They move in together right away. I met the lady, I think one time, and that's when she was moving the things out of the stepdad's house, moving him into her house. That's when I first met her. So she was telling me, oh, you can live with me and the lady. And I'm like, I don't want to live with you guys because at this time, I had already been to, I want to say 3 high schools, 3 or 4 high schools, because she made me, I had to transfer so much. She moved so much. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to switch another high school again. So that's when I moved in, when I was between that guy's house and another friend's house, trying to go to school between their house. Because my mother was like moving 30 minutes away from my school. So now she's with this lady and she went all into the lifestyle. So I'm still young. So I wasn't quite yet at like gay clubs or anything like that, but she started doing those things. She started going to the clubs and embracing the lifestyle. She always bragged about, you know, me and this girl being together. Like she was so happy about it, so proud about it. And she like glorified the relationship to the T with me and this girl. It was on and off because, you know, it was between her and that guy. It was on and off, but she glorified this thing.
And during all of this, your brother and your dad have no clue what's going on.
My mom, in fact, the stepdad, he's calling back to Chicago. He's slandering me. The stuff that you were saying, how you were saying, oh, she's always hanging out, or she's a smart aleck, or she's doing this and that. So he's slandering me, but he's buttering up my family because he's sending gifts and stuff to like my family members. He's giving my brother money. So now they're seeing it as, oh, she's just the bad child. She's the bad seed. Because they can tell them whatever they want over the phone. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, you know, here's all this, here's all that. And to them, it's like, man, what's wrong with Toya? Like, how nice is it sending me money? You don't have to do that.
Because he asked me, my brother asked me, he said, why you give him such a hard time? You know, he's a nice person and blah, blah, blah.
My days, like it's that's why when people say the devil don't exist, man, atheists, anyone knows some atheists saying, you know, you don't believe in God, you don't believe in the devil and stuff like that. I don't. There's not much more to say. You know, that man was so slick. His father had to be the devil. It had to be.
Yeah.
You know, because
using people.
Exactly. You know, it had to know. It's kind of like, you know, to entice, and that's the thing too. A lot of people, you just give them a gift, and sometimes they may know something is out or wrong. They just brush it off because it's it's something I needed. And at first they probably talk to you. Let's say I'm talking to you and you're telling me, yeah, you know, I could definitely use a new couch. So, all right, cool. You know, you get sent that couch. You're like, oh, now you hear these bad stuff about you. Right. You're like, impossible. This man got me a couch. Huh? Some people, a lot of people are like that though. A lot of people. But that is just, man. So when he's slandering, you're like, you know, your brother's calling you, like your dad, is he calling you as well and saying what's going on? Or?
Well, my dad, he would kind of ask me how I was doing and things like that. But for me, by this time, all this trauma I had went through, I guess for me, I still had it in my mind, like, oh, daddy's little girl. If I was to tell him half the things that I had been through and that I was experiencing, it would hurt him to know what I was going through. And see, my dad, he wasn't a man of action because he was an adulterous marriage. So I felt like even if I do sit on here and tell you I'm doing drugs now, I'm doing alcohol now, I'm here, I'm there, what you gonna do? You know what I mean? You're not going to move me into the house with you and this adulterous woman. You have no authority there, and she don't want me there anyways. So now I'm stuck in a situation of like, I tried to move back to Chicago when I first got there. I asked my grandma, could I live with her? Because my brother was living there. And I believe she said, yeah. Or I asked my mother, could I live with my grandma? But she was telling me, well, what would they think about me? So she was more concerned about, if you go back and live with your grandma now, they're going to think I'm a bad mom. So she told me, no, what would they think about me? So I knew I couldn't go with my grandma. And if I told my dad, he wasn't going to offer me a place to stay. So to me, it was just like, the lady he's with doesn't like me. So it's like, what's the point of me telling him just for him to call and make my mom mad? Now you're going to call my mom and argue with her, like, you doing a horrible job. You letting her do this, you letting her do that. And now she's in my face. Didn't I tell you, don't tell me what's going on in here? So now it's more drama. And whoever she's with is going to add in and start yelling at me too.
Exactly. And
so I just always lied to them. Oh, I'm doing fine. Everything's great. I start working a little high school job. Oh, I don't need anything. So I'm telling them.
That's crazy. But at the same time too, it's like, you know, as a father, you find a way to, was he taking care of like another family? Like he had kids with that one?
The lady that he was with the lady that he's with, she has a kid. She had 2 kids, but one was murdered. So she has a daughter still. And at the time, she was living in the household with them. And as years went on, she had her own children. And, he just went into full-fledged grandpa mode for them people, like doing everything for them, trying to be there. I guess whatever he missed out on in my brother's life, he stepped up and was doing it for her and her children. So, and I know that he wasn't now where I am now spiritually. I know he didn't really care about me, because looking back, when I was in Hawaii, I didn't see my family for 4 years. I got there at 14. I didn't get to come out to Chicago until I was 18 after graduation.
Okay.
So it wasn't like he tried to fly in and check in. How you doing? Everything okay? Nothing.
No, and that's something I never understood. A man, here you are with your first wife, married, you have your kids, you leave them, go marry a second woman and take care of her kid. It's something I just will never be able to understand. And the worst part about it, like, yeah, maybe grandma can come see you or bro, but you're like, as a man, that's your daughter. That's your own kid, and you're not even thinking, let me just fly and surprise her. Let me go and see, because he had to have realized, things are kind of shifty before you're moving there. But now you have this. Listen, the fact that you knew there was another man in that house,
right?
Just should have put in, what? Let me sneak up on him. Let me ask my daughter, what's the address? I'm sneaking up on them, because I'm not about, like, that's your daughter. That's your daughter. It's not like it was your, I can't even say what it was like. Like, it's like, even if, because within the business I have, there may be a kid, just in need of something, just in trouble or something. I'm gonna try to go out my way to help him. And that's not even my kid. So I can't even imagine what it'd be like if it was. And it's just to the point where there's a lot of men out there. It's foolishness. If you have your first wife, you're married and you have kids, and you just go and leave them, marry another woman and take care of her kids, it's a straight bum thing. Like, you're not a man. Well, I'm taking care of kids. No, you're just not a man. It's you have your own. I just don't know what to say. It's in terms of people like that. It's tough to even have any form of respect for at all. It's tough to just look at them in the eye and even shake their hand, because some of them are so happy in it too.
Happy. Right. Look at my adulterous family.
Here's my hey honey, here's my second wife. Here, so it's to the point where it's like that stuff is very. I can't. I feel. I'm sorry for what you went through. It's like I was not expecting this. I hope I'm
not boring you. I just want to tell you everything so that you can get the idea about me. I hope I'm not boring you too much.
Boring me? Oh, absolutely not. You is educating me now, because it's just really gonna open eyes, and because there is that in the family. You have that favorite cousin, and you have that, but it's to the point where who knows what could be happening in someone's family? Who knows what could be happening in your family? And it's to the point where it's wow. I'm wow. I was not expecting this at all. You went through, because sometimes kids nowadays, they got an A-. I'm tired with this life. I can't take this no more. Like, this is too much. Brittany doesn't want to talk to them. Like, how could she? I can't. Like, no, I'm done. Like, I'm going through stuff right now. I'm just going through it. Like, what are you going through? But then, you have one that was in your situation. My days, my God. If you were to tell someone your life story and you were 15, like, they would, I don't think they'd believe it. Like, how they be, it's so crazy. Like, I know kids have different lifestyles, but I didn't know it was like this. I didn't know it was like that. But yeah, sorry.
And I forgot to mention to you too, all while I'm going through this, I don't even know how I had to be God keeping it together, because I forgot to mention to you that while I'm going through this at home, I'm being bullied at school. So at school was supposed to be like my safe haven, but I was bullied because she had us transfer so much, being a new student, that I always tried to stay quiet, to myself, but it was always a guy that like gravitated towards me, you know, and I would just start, because girls, it's like they always kind of want to start drama. So I would hang out with a guy. The next thing you know, the whole school wants to fight me. Oh, that was my boyfriend 3 years ago. You know, then all of them are teaming up on me. And even when I stop, don't talk to the guy, they'll find another reason to fight with me. Because sometimes it literally was just friendship. Like, oh, this guy's a cool friend. He's not trying to fight me. And all they want to fight me, that I'm a new student. And then being in Hawaii, I forgot to mention to you that it was very racist back then. When I was out there by 04, 05, when you lived in Hawaii, if you lived more so by the natives, the ones that were like born there and stuff, a lot of them were very racist towards Black people. And when I first got to that school, they used to tell me, you think you're tough, this and that. And I'm like, no, I don't. What y'all talking about? And they said, well, we've seen all those movies on BET. Like, you know how the media portrays Black people on movies and stuff? They said, I think I'm tough and I'm going to take over. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I'm dealing with racism. They're trying to jump me when I was going to that school, but my mom switched me out schools. And then now I'm dealing with the military kids. A lot of them, they were just, you know, picking on me because I was new or who I was hanging out with. So I'm dealing with the pressures at school, with the bullying and fight. I'm fighting all the time. I'm getting suspended. So that's what I'm saying. I look like the bad kid because I got so much stress at home that you'll pick on me at school and I'm just like, please leave me alone. I'm trying to be quiet. And then when I snap and I'm fighting and I'm throwing things and I'm throwing books and I'm jumping on tables, I'm the psycho. I'm crazy. Even though I would tell the teachers, can you tell them to leave me alone? They wouldn't do it. Then when I act all crazy like that, I'm in trouble. That's how I got expelled, because I pulled a knife on a guy who was bothering me for a very long time. And I told him, but he was a football star, so they did nothing about it.
Of course.
Tell me.
Yeah, and during that time, like from all that you were going through, it's all you knew. You know what I'm saying? It's all like in terms of, you know, pulling a knife and going crazy and stuff like that. Like you had literally, I mean, yeah, at the beginning, maybe with your dad, but the fact that he left, because as a parent, you can't tell your kids something if you're not even doing it yourself, if you're not even living right or living, you know, you can't be telling your kid not to wear a black shirt and you wear a black shirt every day. Like, what's different from me and versus you? Oh, I'm allowed to wear a black. So how come I can't wear a black shirt, you know? And you had literally zero structure. Like it's not even close. Like you had absolutely nothing. You know, it's just wow. Like because you see 15-year-olds today. It's like some of them I'm used to seeing the ones, and I guess the environment where they have, you know, a lot. They have this, they have that. Mom care for them here, dad care for them there. You know, talking at least almost every day where you good, you this and that. Parents having their back.
Right.
Versus yours, it was almost like you was like I don't even know, because what kid do you treat that way? You know, what kid you know? I just, man,
it was just like figured out for me. And so what I did was I started creating my own moms and other people's moms. So like those friends that was like you that had curfews and stuff, I didn't make fun of those friends. I liked those friends. Like sometimes I would go to their house, their mothers would invite me for dinner. And when I was telling my husband my testimony, you know, years later, he was telling me, he said, well, their moms probably was inviting me to dinner because their moms probably could see that something was different about you. They could probably see that you were going through something. Like this girl doesn't seem like the regular 15-year-old girl. You could tell she's been through stuff. Because they would invite me for dinners. Their moms would like cook food and stuff. Because I was never going to ask or tell nobody, oh, I'm hungry. But it's like God was using these girls' moms to be like, oh, come over for dinner. Or calling me, come over for breakfast, you know? So I admired, never was jealous or envious. I had a friend who had a mother who had her curfew, who was taking care of her, cooking and cleaning. And I would tell her, like, everything that I was doing, I protected her from to the best of my ability. Like she's a little younger than me, like a year and a half. I told her, do not lose her virginity. I told her, when I started doing all those drugs and stuff, don't touch them drugs and none of that stuff that I'm touching. I told her no to all of that stuff. Back then I didn't know. So, I mean, she smoked weed, but I was doing like ecstasy. I was overdosing on pills, and I would tell her, don't touch none of that stuff. And I told her also to save herself and don't be having sex and stuff. And she would tell me, her friends would tell her to, and I would tell her not to. So that's another thing about me. I didn't look at those people with jealousy or anything. I looked at them as, if I can help them, I'm going to try to protect them. So those friends that was like, that had parents that were strict and stuff, I never was like, y'all should be doing all this bad stuff. You know, for the best of my ability, I would try to tell them, y'all lucky y'all got good parents and don't do the stuff that I'm doing. Don't follow me.
Wow. And so now with all that's happening, your mom's lesbian, you're lesbian and stuff like that. What
Yeah,
in terms of
that
transition?
time I was bisexual at that time. And it's funny because I said, oh, I would never be a lesbian. That's what I was saying, because I was still trying to play, both sides at that time. But later on, then so
And so later, so pretty much, it's when you were between the guy that put the bag over your head and then that secret girl, you weren't like hiding the fact that you're lesbian. You were still on both sides.
at that time, yeah, I was dealing with him and I was dealing with her, both on and off, kind of. So
Oh,
people
okay.
knew me back then. They would call me bisexual because I was dealing with both of them
Both
at that
on.
time.
Okay. And then so
So
you said at 18, you go back to Chicago.
yeah, 18. That's when I had went to Virginia with him. Then I ended up breaking away from him. He wouldn't let me leave. So my mom called me and told me that my auntie had cancer. So I told him I was gonna go see my auntie. So he told me that I can only take 3 outfits with me, 3 pair of pants and 3 pair of shirts and things like that. Because he said, since you're not leaving, just take 1 book bag. And my mother, I do remember her telling me, well, your life is more important than these clothes and things. So just take the book bag. Because this is basically my escape route. I wasn't going to tell him I was leaving. I just told him I was visiting.
Yeah.
So everything that I had, all I was able to escape with was just a book bag. And I left like that.
Wow.
So, yeah. And when I went to Chicago at 18, all I was doing was just, I had just visited my mom and grandma and my brother for a couple of months. And then I went back to Hawaii with my mom there, my mom and the lady. But I forgot to mention that when I got with this guy, that's when I started abusing alcohol really bad. I started doing ecstasy. I started smoking weed a lot heavier, and then I started taking pills. They used to be called triple C's. It's like you can get it from the store, but really you're overdosing on pills. You're overdosing to get that high. So I was doing all that stuff about 16, almost 17. Up until then, I was doing all that stuff still.
Wow. Wow. I've heard of ecstasy and weed, of course. I never heard of triple C. I'm not familiar with pills. I've heard of Percocets. I know Percocets that could get people hooked, and
Right.
and so. But now, so you were never like, were you extremely for like the homosexual community, or it's just like it was just that brings of confusion, and like what led you to come into how you are today?
You're saying to be full blown? What led me to be full blown into the community?
Yeah, no. So were you full blown into the community?
Oh yeah.
Or like you're full supporter? Like you were full support and everything? But yeah, go on with that.
Oh yeah, I was full blown. After I had got out of this situation with the guy and stuff, another incident happened to me. I had got raped, and then I ended up getting pregnant from that rape, and I ended up having a miscarriage. And then after that, all throughout this time though, I'm still talking to women, I'm still engaging with women and things like that. It's just me thinking, oh, it's not so bad because I'm talking to both. Yeah. But after that situation, that's when this is the years now where it's full blown. Yeah. After that, that rape happened to me and the miscarriage, after that, it was like, I was full blown, Yeah. So now that brings me to like, 18, 19, whatever. I'm starting to, and I'm full blown the lifestyle. Now, what I was noticing was that when I was dating women in this lifestyle, talking to women, I felt like something was missing, because the women that I was talking to, they were like, I guess you would say girly. So I guess at that time, that's when the devil presented me to what they call a stud.
Yeah, now, like a dyke, pretty much. I was in Chicago for, I went to attend the Malcolm X College for like maybe a couple of weeks, then I had to come back. Okay. And so I've never seen so many. I mean, growing up, we heard of being tomboy, but man, Chicago, like when they told me, these are dykes, like these are actual, like the girls' basketball team, I think it was only 1 or 2 girls that were straight. The rest, they were either lesbian or they were like dykes. So that I know, but stud is a different name given as well for it. So you even embraced, like you wanted to be kind of like the, that part of the relationship.
Well, no, I started dating studs. I never became a stud. I became what they call a stem. They have something turned out. A stem is kind of like it's kind of like a tomboy, and you still got the femininity with it as well. So it's not quite like a full-on stud. It's kind of like you're a tomboy, but maybe you'd have your nails painted or something.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's what like a stem is. But a dyke, what you're talking about, they're not gonna have their nails painted. They're trying not to have no femininity showing at all.
Yeah,
so me, they would consider me back then as like a stem because I still had a tad bit of femininity, and I wasn't like wearing baggy pants or nothing. It was just kind of like tomboy with a little girl twist to it.
Yeah.
So at that time, getting all the way into the lifestyle of homosexuality, it's because, like I said, I started feeling like, you know, I had more of that, felt more like comfort. And now looking back, I believe it's from the lack of love and parenting from my mother. And I'm looking for that motherly love. So by them being a woman, it's like they're doing those things, you know, like the cooking and the caring and, you know, things like that. So now that I'm in the lifestyle, I'm going to the gay clubs. At first, I was trying to figure out how I would be able to make somebody know that I was homosexual, like just know, because you couldn't just know. And I had this one girl tell me, oh, just wear this rainbow bracelet and they'll know. And another person told me, just start going to the gay clubs, because if you're in there, everybody's gay, or they're in there for that reason. Yeah. So I started going to those clubs. I still was doing the drinking, the alcohol, the partying. You know, none of that stuff stopped. That stuff just kind of escalated. And after that, I had moved to Florida with this girl. And I mean, I started feeling, you know, that emptiness. I started feeling like, you know, something was missing. But I was just thinking like, oh, well, maybe it's just the person that I'm with. You know, maybe because the person I was with, like, it's like she had a background where she was like, had this perfect life. And since all the things that I had been through, I always felt like an outcast. I always felt like something was wrong with me and I was the problem. So if that was God speaking to me, telling me something's missing, I missed it because I'm just thinking, maybe it's because nobody can understand me and the level of pain and things that I've been through. So I just drink more, party more, you know, and did things like that. And all the while I was in the homosexual lifestyle, I was still going to church. Yeah. I was still going to the regular church, not the homosexual church. I was still going to church. I still said my prayers at night. Like, I didn't know how quite to find God the right way, but the little bit that I was taught and that I knew, all these trials I'm telling you about, I was always crying out to God. I was always praying to God. I was always saying, God, help me. All those nights I was alone in the car and things, I was always praying to God. And
this, you're in Hawaii or Chicago at this time?
When I was 19, I moved back to Hawaii. But when I met that lady, the girl that I was having a relationship with, we moved to Florida together.
Oh, Florida. So when you were going to the gay clubs, you're going like to the gay clubs in Florida.
Yeah, I went in Hawaii before we moved, but then I was going to Florida too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. No, I've known. Like, apparently, it's crazy, really crazy over there in Florida, like the way.
Yeah, I was kind of up north a little bit though, so I wasn't quite in Miami or anything. I was North Florida, like Pensacola, so.
Okay.
Kind of close to Alabama, even though that's bad. But
okay.
I wasn't, in the thick of it.
And then, so from that time, was she going to church with you as well, or you're just going by yourself?
Actually, she wasn't. And one thing I can say about me coming up with having so much pain and having so much struggle, it taught me more to always lean on God, to always pray and cry out to God. But she kind of came up perfect life, perfect parents. When I asked her what's the worst thing she had been through, she told me she fell off her moped before, her scooter. That's all she could think of. Like, she had nothing else, So for her, she always kind of she didn't probably need to really lean. She probably didn't think she needed to lean on God, because for her, if I needed something, mommy and daddy always got it. They were always here. Yeah. But for me, all those nights I was by myself and all those situations I was in, God was the only one that I can pray to and cry out aloud to. So maybe she didn't have that. It was always like, for what? I don't have everything. Yeah. So she didn't go to church with me. I went by myself.
And did she ever ask, like, why are you going? Because you're living in this lifestyle. Like, did she ever like?
Well, she never asked. And that's interesting you say that, because her family comes from the church. Like, her father, he had a testimony and things like that. Mm-hmm. And her father, when she first came out, he said that her father was actually against it. Mm-hmm. And I'm bringing this up to say how parents should really stand their ground, because her father used to be against it, but instead of standing his ground and teaching her the word of God, which I'm sure he told her about it, it was like as time went on, he just kind of compromised with it.
Oh yeah, like that. Yeah, that's 99% of preachers today, or even, you know, what, like they become politicians or whatever, you know. It's they start firm, they start strong and all this and that, but then now it's now, oh yeah, you could be homosexual and go to heaven, you know, you'll meet the person that, you know, it's a lot of them has compromised. That's why I'm very appreciative to God for my leader. I don't know if you heard of him, Gino Jennings. He really doesn't care. He really doesn't have fear for these politicians or these people out here, because to come out of a lifestyle like that, you need a hard and solid gospel, you know. So, but it's wonderful that, you know, you were still going and continuing, and, you know, you have one that had everything. So it's like, I don't have to really be in that desperate mode. You know, I don't have to go on my knees. I don't have to go and say, Lord, please, you know, because I have it all. And then you have another person who just went through not even a movie, a whole documentary, season 1, 2, and 3. You know? And so it's to go there, you know, I'm glad that, you know, you still had, you know, that belief in God, because people could lose $1 today and they there ain't no God, he's not real, you know. I can't take this no more, get out of here. But you were going through situations where I'm sure anybody would tell you, Toya, you have every right to be upset. You have when you know, shouldn't be upset at God now, but I'm just saying in terms of what people would say. You know what I mean? Before people go and start to say, okay, I'm about to upset what you got. I'm not trying to say that. And it's very encouraging to hear that despite going through all that, you still believed in him. You still, because it, especially today, it's very easy for someone to just whatever this God, whatever that God, because of the situations that happened to them. But then you don't realize about the stuff people are actually going through, have gone through, you know. So, but yeah, so now that you see her dad is becoming very compromising and stuff, and what happens from there?
So from that situation with her, like I said, it didn't get any better. I just felt like she was such a spoiled person. I started to notice her covetousness. I didn't know what covetousness was back then, but I started to notice that her being spoiled, it was never enough. Like how she had a motorcycle and then nothing's wrong with it. Then just 3 months later, I need a new one. You know, she had a nice working vehicle. Then a few months later, I need the newest vehicle because so-and-so has it. Or we were renting out a house with 2 bedrooms and it's just us and a dog. And you feel like, I need a bigger house. Like it was, to me, I was starting to see the ungratefulness. Like I said, for me, I come from when I used to just have like a little book bag on me with clothes in it, spend the night at Will's house, and let me stay there, sleeping on the couch, sleeping in my car. So I was just seeing like this person is ungrateful. And then when I would talk to her about spiritual things, it's like she wouldn't really believe them. Because even back then, I believed people when they said that they would see spirits and different things like that. She told me testimony herself when she saw a spirit and still didn't even believe it. She was just like, oh, well, maybe I was just seeing things. So I didn't like her disbeliefs, you know.
Yeah. Like you started to kind of get a distance of her started to build.
Yeah, I started to just, I was moving away. I was more staying like more on the streets, more partying, clubbing, but none of that stuff stopped. Like one thing about homosexual life though is that it adds a lot. It's not of God, of course, so it's going to be unrighteous. So there was a lot of promiscuity, a lot of lust. So even when I was in that so-called relationship with her, I was still out sleeping with many, many women. I was not faithful in this so-called relationship. You know, I was still had that missing piece, and I was still doing all these things. I didn't slow down at all.
Wow.
So then, you know, that's when my mom, she gave me a call around that time on the phone that I had to go see my brother because she was saying that my brother was going through some problems. And then just to make a long story short, he had to go to the psych ward, and they were saying that they diagnosed him with bipolar 1, schizophrenia, because he was in psychosis at the time. Not sure if you know what any of this stuff means, but so I went to go see him. And then after that time, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back. He came to Hawaii with my mom, and I said, well, I'm going to go out there to help with my brother and to, you know, be around my family and everything. So that's how I moved back out there. Okay. But I was still active in the life. still didn't slow down, still doing the things that I was doing. But I can say though, when my brother had went through that situation, he started drawing closer to God. So he was like going to church a lot because I didn't really share much about him, but he stayed in Chicago. So he had went through a lot of things, drug dealing, messing with all these women, promiscuous, and he had been robbed by gunpoint a few times. And, you know, he had went through a lot of things himself, and he'd been shot before. So he went through a lot of things himself. So after that situation had happened with him, it's like he started seeking God more. Now he was going to church. He was separated from those people, and he started really seeking God. So I was still going to church, even with him, while I was in the thick of the lifestyle. I was still going with him, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is that God wanted me to do with my life, but I didn't get like an answer at that time. But I'm still trying.
And that 18, 19 still at that time.
Well, no, at this time, I would say I was about 21. Because when I was 18, 19, about 19 is when I moved to Florida, and I stayed there until I was 21. From 19 to 21. Right. Because even when I was in Florida, I got into a car accident because my friend that was driving, she thought it was a good idea to be texting, and she ran through a red light, and we got hit, and the car got towed and everything. But God protected us through that. No scratch or anything. That's what happened. So I moved back to Hawaii when I was 21 with my
your brother and your mom.
And the lady that she was with, and my brother,
Okay, and so she was still with the lady at when you moved back. Okay.
Yeah, she's still with the lady. So
when you get back over there, what happens next?
Like I said, I'm going to church with my brother and things like that, but I'm still in the lifestyle. I'm still not really finding that peace, because even at this time, like you were talking about the guidance and stuff, is not getting better, because now my mom, she's inviting us to come to the strip club with her. You know,
I can't know, Mama. I don't understand. I don't understand what's going on. What is going on right now? I thought it was done, maybe, you know, with the things you said before, but now you're telling me your mom is like, hey, wait, just you or you and your brother?
My brother, me and my brother. At first, my brother, he was like weirded out, because one thing is, when my mom, when she started getting with the lady, she started dressing like almost nudity, like showing a lot of things.
Yeah.
So he used to tell her, like, oh, I don't like when you dress like that. And then not only was she dressed like that, she would tell me, oh, you should dress like this, wear my clothes. And she started telling me to dress and look like that. I was never comfortable. My whole life, she tried to tell me to dress like that, and I didn't like to. But she was telling me, you know, she had a little short period of time where she convinced me, maybe it was a couple months, it wasn't long, and she had me dressing like that. My brother would tell you, you should cover up. So she would say, oh, you know, let's go to the strip club. So me and my brother would go.
Wow.
And now I'm like 21, so he's like 24.
Yeah.
So we're going. So it's like, she's not, like, you know, like I said, she's promoting these things. So after she's doing that, I mean, she's going to the gay club with me and stuff, and the straight clubs too. So it's like, for me, all the way around, it was just like darkness. Like, there's nobody that's like, you shouldn't be doing this. I think my brother felt funny about us being in the lifestyle, but by my mom being like, oh, I can do what I want to do, it's my life, he just didn't fight with her. So everywhere around me, everybody's telling me, oh, it's okay. My mom, the lady she's with. Now we're at all these gay parties, all these gay places. Everybody is promoting it. Mind you, even my dad, when I told my dad, instead of him telling me and reminding me about the Bible like he taught me when I was a kid, he didn't really say anything. He would talk about my mom, like, oh, I see you with a lady, but you're not saying nothing to me, and I'm in the same situation, and you're not even expressing to me. So I didn't have anyone. That's why now when the Most High sends me to tell somebody about getting out that lifestyle, I would do it immediately, because I didn't like the fact that everyone around me, all my so-called Christian family members, you guys all see me drowning, and not one of you guys are willing to even pull me to the side and talk to me. Not one.
Not one.
So now this is what's going on. And fast forward a little bit, from 21, like I said, same thing. The woman my mom was with, she ended up getting cancer. So we're going through all that, taking her to her appointments and stuff like that. So then we fast forward up, my brother goes back to Chicago. At 22, I met this woman that I was with, and I'll speed it up. She was in the military and everything. And that year, by the end of that year, Satan had such a stronghold on me that me and this woman thought that we got married. As we know, 2 women, 2 men can't get married, but that's the government. Obama had passed that law or whatever, and said that we could be married.
Yeah.
So my mother was so excited about it. She bought us tickets, flew us to New York. She paid for everything, the photography, all that stuff. Like, she was just so excited because she just felt like, well, now you're off my hands type thing.
Yeah.
So now I'm in more darkness, thinking that I'm married. But even with this person, I'm not happy. I still feel empty. I still feel broken. Same old ways. Nothing's changing. I'm still trying to figure out a way to close that missing gap and that missing piece in me. So the same thing. The lifestyle promotes all this lust, all this sexual behavior, all this unhappiness, all this dark spaces, and you're just feeling it. And the way how the devil was feeling it with her is that she was buying gifts. Like, like I said, how I grew up, like I didn't really have like my mother, she's seen it as I bought things, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have much because for the most part, she did mostly things for herself. And if I didn't agree with her, then she wouldn't do it for me. And she didn't like that I didn't want to dress naked and things like that. So she wouldn't really buy me those type of things. So for this girl, it's like, oh, let's go on a trip here. Let's go there. Let's do this. So it's like the devil trying to keep you busy with toys and gifts as an illusion that you're happy when you're really not. So then at that point, we were going to move to Georgia. My mom had moved to Atlanta because she wanted to, I guess, be more close to the lifestyle. Because Atlanta's like one of the biggest.
It's the capital.
Yeah.
Like Atlanta, like especially the transgenders over there, like they really like the ones that are actual men. They really you won't be able to tell. It's very tough.
Yeah.
That's just wow.
Yeah.
So once you get over there, what happens?
And that's what they did, because at that time, the woman that she was with wanted to become a man. I didn't know at this time. They hadn't told me yet. But she told me a little bit later that when they moved to Atlanta, the woman was telling her that she wanted to change her name to a man's name, and she wanted to become a transgender and identify as a man. The woman my mother was with.
Yeah.
So now I'm about to move to Georgia. I turned 23 at this time. And right before I was leaving, because I told you I was still doing all the same things I was doing, I had got a DUI. It was like Labor Day weekend. Drinking, club closed early, got stopped by the cops, got a DUI. They took me to holding. Thank the Most High, I didn't have to do any time, but I had to pay fines, and I lost my license for a year.
Yeah.
And this story is gonna lead up to something. So right after that DUI, we were to fly out to Georgia. I think maybe less than a week later. Got there, got to see my mom, got to see my brother and everything. And after I see my brother, I had to go 4 hours away to another part of Georgia so we can get a house. And 3 days after that, I got a phone call at September 16th, Monday at 7 o'clock, a little after 7, that my brother was murdered.
In Atlanta?
Right outside of Atlanta. Yeah. About 20 minutes out.
Sorry to hear that. That's just
sir.
Did they say why? Was he like back in that lifestyle, or? He actually wasn't,
because like I told you, when he started back going to Christ, he changed his life and all that stuff. What it was is that my mom asked him to move to Atlanta with her, and when he got down there, same thing I was going through. He was living in the house with my mom. The lady didn't want him to be there, so she would pick with him. So my mother felt like, okay, it's a rush. I gotta hurry up and rush and find him his own apartment.
Yeah.
My brother had never really lived. He lived on his own in Chicago a little bit, but it was in my grandma's building. We had family around. But she rushed and got him into a place. She don't know nothing about Atlanta because we're not from there.
Yeah.
We rushed and moved into this neighborhood. And now what we know is they're saying it's a really pretty rough neighborhood. Yeah. So when he was living there, he had this man who used to always harass him about a parking spot, even though they're not assigned parking spots. And this article is on Google too about what happened. So the man wanted him to move his parking spot, and he would move his car and everything, but the man flooded his tires. He just kept messing with him. The devil kept using him because he wanted my brother to go back to his old ways. My brother wouldn't do it. He reported it, did the right thing. And that morning, he had gotten into an argument with my brother's girlfriend and asked her why she keep coming over there, blah, 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 cursing at her. My brother said, we're not going to do this today. We're not going to argue. And the man ran downstairs where my brother partner was at. He didn't see him go down there. Then my brother got down there to go in the house. He jumped out in front of him. He shot my brother 18 times, but 29. He had 29 bullet wounds, in and out exit wounds. It was 29. And they have an article on this.
This was for for a parking spot and for 18 times.
18 times. It's 29 shots. He got shot 18 times, but it's 29 in and out exit wounds. And that was when he was 27 years old. And that was right outside of Atlanta. And that's, I mean, this goes to show you how the devil he just had his foot on my neck. Anything that would make me happy, I can destroy it, or he will try to take away. Anything.
I'm just, so like, this wasn't a case where your brother killed someone or robbed someone or said something. This was over just like general arguments. Well,
to me, when they say like a parking space, like how you say, I can see Satan. Now that through my testimony and my everyday life, I can see Satan everywhere when I see people. And what I see it as Satan was using that man, and he was mad because my brother chose Christ and was living righteous and living the right way. Because if that man was mad about a parking spot, first of all, the man didn't even have a car. He didn't even have a car. He lived with his girlfriend and his dad. His girlfriend had a car, but what my brother did to avoid trouble, because he was changing his life, he moved his car to another part of the parking lot. You see? And it wasn't even assigned parking spots. So everything the man would try to do, when the man flattened my brother's tires, instead of my brother going to go fight him, which is what the old man would have done, he didn't do that. He reported it on paper to the people the way that you're supposed to do, without violence. So it was like, even though he was trying to avoid this man at all costs, that man was full of the devil. Because my dad and them said at the trial, that man had no remorse. He looked like he was smiling the whole time. So that man, they had said that man had previous gun charges before. He had pulled guns on people, might even shot somebody before. And they also said that that man used to do things like fake his identity to be with women and lie about his name, all kinds of crazy things. So this man was already a bad seed. So
he's doing like life in jail now.
He's doing life. And he was a bit older. I think he was almost like 50, and my brother was 27.
That's crazy. I'm really sorry to hear that. I mean, I thought it was one or two bullets, or a bullet caught him, or like, just that was it. But there was 29 bullets and 18 hit his body.
Well, he was shot 18 times, but I believe the gun was a 9mm. So I guess they're saying I guess it was like the bullets are going in and out. And then when you count how many times, that happening, it was 29 times, in and out exits. So he was shot 18 times, but coming in and out 29.
Yeah, in and out and stuff.
Because it was actually hitting too. They were saying it was hitting against the wall and ricocheting, all kind of different things.
And so what happens then with you?
So then after that, I will tell you, before this happened, all those bad things that happened to me, remember I told you I was able to just suppress it. Like, oh, well, everything happens for a reason. Like, I was doing that, and I was suppressing drugs and alcohol. But after this happened, it was like something in me changed. Like, I wasn't able to suppress anymore. I knew that wasn't going to work, but I did suppress it at the beginning. Like, I tried not to think about it. And I knew from experience that when you drink alcohol and do drugs, it can make you emotional. So after my brother died, I was like, I need to stop drinking alcohol, because I don't want to be, at that time, I wasn't really doing ecstasy and stuff anymore, just weed sometimes. So I was like, I'm going to stop drinking alcohol, because I know I'm going to be crying all the time. I'm going to be a mess. So I was in college at the time, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing college. I'm just going to keep going to school, because I was going online, and I'm not going to miss a beat. I'm just not going to think about it. I'm going to keep going to college. So I tried to just bury it as much as possible, because the pain was just so unbearable. I mean, there was a couple times that I literally cried out. I didn't know what to do. you know, because I was no stranger to murder. Like I said, my Uncle Tracy was murdered when I was 13.
Yeah.
I had classmates that was murdered when I was like 13. As I was getting older, exes and stuff that was getting killed in Chicago. So I was just so used to people getting killed around me, family members, just everybody. So, but this one was so personal, like, because my great grandma had just died in 2011, then my granddad in 12, or it might have been reversed. And I was just like, everybody's dying, you know? So for me, that really, really hurt me. Like, I was living in Georgia and I just tried to become numb. I tried to party and thing again, didn't work. And the lady I was with, like, she hadn't really been through much of anything either. So she didn't really even try to comfort me. It was like after the funeral, she just expected me to be normal again. And, you know, she didn't really talk to me much. So it's like that year, God was really able to sit me down because remember I told you a week before he got killed, or a week and a half, I had got that DUI and my license was gone for a year. So I'm in the house. I was afraid to risk driving and getting in trouble with the police. So I'm in the house almost that whole year. So I had a lot of quiet time, a lot of time to think. And I you know, I started trying to do things to take my mind off it. I started exercising a lot, you know. And back then I started doing yoga before I found out that yoga, you know, was not of God. But back then I just felt like, well, I need to do exercises in the house so I can do something. So I was doing that, and I was, you know, exercising, staying away from all this bad stuff. Then it's like eventually I wasn't able to sleep. I had stopped sleeping, and I told the lady I was with, like, I need to go to the doctor. I'm having trouble sleeping. So we went to the emergency room, and the guy in the ER was like, oh, I can't do anything about it. He was saying maybe it was just, what did he call it? Some kind of clinical depression or something. And as far as seeing a psychiatrist, they had like 3 months out till you can get an appointment. Yeah. And the girl that I was with was she's in the Army. She was about to go on an assignment, I think like a month from there. And I was going to go to Hawaii to visit my mom while she was going on her assignment for like 3 months. So I'm wondering, I'm like, okay, well, I can just push through this. Everything should be fine. But then I had gotten to Hawaii and everything. I had gotten to Hawaii. So now I'm still 23. And I ended up having to go to the hospital myself. And I was also diagnosed with bipolar 1, schizophrenia, and they took me to the psych ward in a state of psychosis. Now, I want to explain just a tad bit what that is so it can be a little understandable, because this is also the experience that I had with Christ right before I was taken to the psych ward. So when I was back in Hawaii, got into an argument with the lady. My mom and her put me outside. It was late at night. So I had to try to find my way to a hotel. You know, I wasn't a stranger being put out and dealing with these things. So when I got to the hotel, it was like for those 3 days I was in there, it's like I feel like I went on a natural fast. Like I was eating very small, but then I had stopped and I was just like drinking liquids, teas and waters. And then it was like, after those days, I remember being in the room and I started feeling like, first I had something told me, do not leave the room, whatever I do. Now, after a while, I had started hearing this, like, I didn't really hear like a voice. It was like thoughts being played in my head of like, you're a loser, you're worthless, you're a bad person, you disappoint your father, just all the worst things somebody can say to you, but I can actually feel the emotion behind it. Yeah. So now I'm like so depressed, I'm crying, and I'm getting the thoughts, you should just kill yourself, you shouldn't even be alive, you should just jump off the balcony, just all the worst things in the world that I could hear. And I had no idea that in hotels, at the time, I didn't know that hotels had Bibles in the drawer. Yeah. So something told me, go to the drawer and get the Bible, because these thoughts were just coming so heavy. I was just crying. I felt horrible. So I ran to the drawer and got the Bible, and I sat in the corner and I just started reading out loud. Then all of a sudden, I had a blanket with me. Then all of a sudden, the light was so bright. The best way I can describe it is like when you see the sun full on a day without clouds, just imagine like the sun being right in your face. Besides, it doesn't hurt. It's not hot or anything, but that brightness. So it's like this brightness covered the room while I was hearing all these negative things and while I was reading the Bible. Once that brightness covered the room, I stopped hearing the negative thoughts. It was just a brightness had covered the room. And at that time, it was like I was reading my Bible, but I knew that it was, you know, my creator. Like I immediately, I put my head down. I didn't try to look up. I didn't try to peek. It's like I started trembling. I started shaking. And like the presence, it's like your spirit, your inside, your spirit knows who your father is. Your spirit knows. And I was so scared, but it wasn't, the feeling was peace, but at the same time, you can feel, it's like you feel respect. Like I'm the creator, I'm your father. Like you can feel all that at once. And all he said to me was, keep reading, you're doing good. And, you know, he showed me some things, you know, that would happen in my life. You know, what I always tell people, he showed me personal things, but, you know, some of the things he showed me to come was like a family and things like that. But, you know, that's for me, the first time I can really say that I experienced knowingly, you know, God's love. And then after that situation, you know, I was talking and I was reading while that was happening. And then I get a knock on the door and the paramedics walk in and they asked me who I was talking to. And the first thought I had in my mind was, I remembered that story when Peter had denied Jesus. So when they were like, who you were talking to? I said, I was talking to God. So naturally, I said, they asked me again. So naturally, all these paramedics are like, oh yeah, well, you need to come with us, you know? You know? So they're all like, yeah, you need to come with us. So when I had gotten to the hospital, later on, the story that was told to me was that people don't know what bipolar is. It's not like, oh, you have attitude a minute. No, you have attitude not. No, bipolar is people who are diagnosed with like bipolar 1, it's a chemical imbalance in their brain. So it's like the way your brain or someone without bipolar 1's brain may function, that person's brain is functioned differently. Now they say that people who get bipolar 1 or schizophrenia, they say it can be environmental reasons. They say it can be genetic, but what they're coming to find is that a lot of people who have these things, trauma, you know, traumatic experiences, and it's almost like your brain has been rewired in a sense. Your brain has developed off course in a sense. Like, it's like your brain has developed around trauma in a sense for some people. So, you know, when you go into psychosis, it's like your brain is off track. It's almost like you're having a delusion or a hallucination and you can't quite, sometimes you can forget your name, you can forget where you live, how old you are, you can end up in another state, which is why I even wear these dog tags, because it has my husband's name and number, you know, in case I ever slip into psychosis again. Yeah, so it's pretty serious.
Okay.
So the world teaches that bipolar just means you have an attitude. That's not what it means. It's an imbalance in your brain.
Yeah, no, that's something new to me. Cause I just thought it was, you know, one day. Cause I when I was in college in California, one of the roommates I had was an Australian guy. He said he had bipolar issues, like he had to take pills for it. Like, morning starts, he could come out. You know, he goes to the washroom, and then he'll come out the washroom and he'll just, hi, Mike. Like, it was just, you know, odd. So I thought that's what, you know, it was in time. But who knows? Maybe he went through trauma himself, because you just really don't know. But it makes sense.
You can have mood changes, like, because bipolar is like extreme mood. So, like, if you feel sad, on a 1 through 10, you may feel sad to a 10. But a bipolar person, if they feel sad, it's going to feel like 1,000. It's going to be so dramatic and extreme, which is why you see people like have suicide and things like that. And when they're in a manic phase, like, you may be happy, which is at a 10, but their happiness could be at 1,000,000, which is why you see some people jumping off buildings thinking that they can fly, or driving into, you know, buildings and stuff like that, because their mind is saying you're invincible, you're a superhero. So it's like, it's definitely a chemical imbalance.
Okay. So for yourself, when the psychosis comes, like, you have to just have that for memory, pretty much, to make sure. Okay.
And when you're going through psychosis, you don't know that you're in psychosis.
Yeah, you don't even know it. Wow.
You don't know until after you know, they'll give you medication, go to the hospital. But while you're in it, it's not like you can control, like, you know, or you're thinking logically the things that you're doing or why you're doing them.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary.
Wow. And then from that time now, you're at the hospital, they diagnose you with that. What happens then?
It was actually a lady in there that was my roommate. And she was like, she seen the ring on my finger. And she goes, "Oh, you're married?" And I was like, "Yeah." But I said I'm married to a woman.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, did you know in the Bible that it says that, if you're married, you can't be married or as a homosexual, that they don't, go to heaven." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know it said in there." Because at churches, when I would hear it, I thought that it was just, God just didn't like it. I thought churches didn't like it. I didn't know they actually could break it down and read it in the Bible. So when she read it to me, I still didn't quite understand it. For one, being in the hospital, and also exactly what was being explained to me, I couldn't quite understand. And I didn't know where it was in the Bible to find it again. But I never, pushed her away or anything. While we were in there, we read the Bible together for the next 3 nights or whatever until she went home. Like I told you, I always loved God. I was never opposed to hearing about God or anything like that. It's almost like for me, I was always trying to see God and find my way. And it was like me, I was just waiting for guidance and an answer. I wasn't denying it or going the other way. Yeah. So after I left there, then I went into like really deep depression because now I'm taking pills. So when you take those pills for this, it makes you feel like a zombie. Some people you'll see really happy because if they have really bad depression, they'll give them pills that make them perky and able to get their day going. Yeah. But for me, I was somebody that was too high. Like, so they had to try to bring me back to center. So my pills made me sleepy, drowsy, like a zombie, and didn't want to do anything. So it made me very depressed. And that's when I started back smoking weed and things like that, because it didn't make me feel better, it made me feel worse.
Yeah. And so now during that time, because you're in the hospital, got out, now you're on medication, you're on these pills and stuff, it puts you in a situation where it makes you lead, to smoking weed or, back to other things.
Right.
What happens, in terms of mentally? Like, because sometimes it's a mental battle of what people could be going through. Like, right. Did you feel at that point, man, that's it? Like, there's no point of even trying to get right with God. I'm just going to be like this forever. Like, what's going through your mind mentally?
I need the light, please. Thank you. I started feeling like, to be honest, I felt like I was cursed or something. Because I started back thinking all the stuff that I've told you. And I'm sure, of course it's more, but I ain't trying to keep you forever. And I was just thinking like, I just can't get a break. It's like, to be honest, it's like my life, even to this day, with things necessarily not being like that anymore. I still have trials and tribulations, but I grew up thinking that everywhere around the corner was going to be something bad happening. Yeah. Everywhere, I'm just waiting on it. To this day, I'm always looking around like, where it's at, I know it's coming. So that's kind of how my life was. Yeah. I just thought that that's how it was supposed to be for me. That I just got to look around the corner, something else is coming. Yeah. So the brother thing, that was like a really big blowout for me. Yeah. So after that happened with my brother and everything, like, mentally, I didn't feel good. I was feeling spacey because of the medication and things like that. But I didn't feel like the connection that I had with God, that it got less stronger from what I had when the visitation I had and everything. I feel like the pills kind of suppressed that because everything just felt numb. But I was still looking, and I was still seeking. I was trying to figure out, what I was going to do. And then after that, I guess the medication I was on, like 3 months later, I ended up having to go back to the hospital. And during that time, it was just crazy because I was in contact again with the guy that used to beat me. And during a psychotic episode, like I literally from Georgia drove all the way to Virginia.
How long of a drive is that?
I don't know if it was 8 hours or if it was 5 or 6. I can't remember. Anywhere between 5 and 8.
Oh, okay. So not long, not that bad.
I hadn't slept in days. Now I know, looking back. Yeah. Hadn't slept in days. And also, in my right mind, I would have never done that because this is the person that tried to kill me. Of course, I would have been like, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So God really protected me during psychosis, being on the road, driving. And I remember before I got on the freeway, I remember hearing God's voice, and he asked me a question. He said, do you want to take the easy way? I didn't know what that meant, but I said no. And when I heard God's voice, the funniest thing is that I thought it was my navigation talking to me, because I mean, no one else is in the car. So when I'm hearing a voice speaking to me, I'm thinking like, I'm looking at my navigation. I'm like, it's not my navigation, you know, because it was like calm, but I'm like, where's this coming from? And that's what I remember him asking me, do you want to take the easy way? Did I want to take the easy way, or I don't know if he said hard way, or did I want to take the easy way? And I was just like, no, I don't want to take the easy way. And I remember when I got up there, God definitely protected me, because after seeing this guy, I guess the fear set back in about everything I had went through. And they said I was walking in the street for miles. And I remember this bus almost hitting me, because I remember seeing the bus, and they said I was just walking in the street. And then that's when the cops came, they detained me and took me to the psych ward.
Wow.
So now this is my second time in psych ward.
And so wow, that's what you mean when like you're in such a psychosis, like you don't even know you're in. Like to you, it's just normal. Just I'm doing my.
You think it's normal? Yeah.
That's crazy.
You think it's normal to drive? Because some people from psychosis stories, they have bought plane tickets and went to another state. They don't know nobody in that state. They didn't book a hotel. And they just think that when they get there, everything's going to fall in line. You know what I mean? So you've had some people who's, like I said, people have jumped off buildings thinking that they can fly. Yeah. You've had some people who, and they said another thing that's common is that they say people who have psychosis, they get nude for some reason. And that's why they took me to the hospital the first time, because they said that I was nude on the balcony reciting scriptures. And I guess now we know it's probably prophesying. I didn't know any scriptures to be doing anything like that, but they said I was doing that.
And you were nude while doing that?
That's what they said. I have no recognition. I don't remember that at all. Yeah. When they came to get me, I had, like a shirt and stuff on. I don't have any remembrance of that. I don't remember leaving the room. And that's why it's scary. I don't remember doing that at all. If I did, I would probably say I did. I can't remember it. And that's not because it's our brain, the fragments, it's like you lose things, you know. I don't remember that. Well, when I go to the psych wards, I hear stories like that. Some people say they were walking on the highway. They don't know how or why they got there, why they were doing that.
Like that's crazy, and that's very scary at the same time.
Very scary.
That's like telling me somebody could. Oh, you know what? When actually it happened, I think in Canada, it was a guy. He murdered a woman, or she tried to murder her. I think he stabbed her like 4 times, but he got up, he walked to the police station, and he said, I stabbed somebody. They said it's like psychosis. Like he didn't even realize. So when he was like put in the psych ward or like a center and all that, he wrote stuff to apologize to the woman. Well, she didn't accept it, of course, but he said he really did not know what was going on. Like he didn't.
It's a real thing. Psychosis is very real, and that's why God has told me He wants me to speak about it more, because when you see those things in the news, sometimes it's hard to believe, and you're like, oh, that person's fake and they're just lying. But people don't understand that you can get psychosis even without having bipolar schizophrenia. A lot of people get postpartum psychosis. When you see these
that's true. That is true. Yeah, I know of women who've gone crazy as soon as they've had a kid, like on the street naked, screaming and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like that's just wow.
That's psychosis. What you're saying there, what you just described, is psychosis, because if she was in her right mind, she wouldn't have done those things.
I've never done that. And then she probably won't even remember it today as well.
Don't remember it.
Like you'd have to record it to say, hey, look, this was you, this is what happened. So wow. Yeah. And so
because I get fragments. Like I can remember, because all together now in my life, I've been hospitalized 6 times. So I can remember fragments, little bits and pieces of things. But for the most part, I can't tell you the whole thing, just little bits and pieces. But other people will tell me, like the doctor or the police or people who were around at that time, but I can't remember everything.
Wow.
And so then, now that I'm in the psych ward now, oh no, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So now that I'm in the psych ward now, this is the second time, while I'm in there, I get raped by somebody while I'm in psychosis. I'm not in my right mind. He's like, this girl, I'm not gonna do it there.
You like I just wow, man. So you're telling me you were in psychosis during the time?
I was still in psychosis because when you first get in the hospital, you know, it takes days for the medicine to get better and for it to regulate and different things like that. So it's the person, they, you know, basically came to my room, and it's like my mindset went back to when I was young again, of not saying anything, just dealing with it.
So wait, in this, it was like a male doctor?
Well, it wasn't a doctor, it was another person that was in there. And what people don't understand about the psych ward is that it's actually unisex. Your roommate cannot be a man, but you guys are all on the same floor. So let's say that there's 6 rooms on one floor. You can have, like the last time I was in there, I had a guy on this side, it was a guy's room, then you walk a little bit, then it's my room, then you walk a little bit, then it's another room. So people don't understand that. I don't know if all behavioral health psych wards are like this, but the ones I've been through too, guys and girls' room can be side by side to each other.
Oh, and so was he in psychosis as well, or he was like, he knew what he was doing?
I can't, to be honest, the reason why I think he knew what he was doing is because when I was in, every time I'm in there, for some reason, I make friends. And when I was in there, this one guy was talking to me, and he was telling me, oh, I'm just here because when you come into the psych ward, you get free drugs, you get free meds. So I know I can't speak on him, but see, you can be in the psych ward for anything. You could be in there for depression. You can be in there for suicide, just talking suicide. I'm hurt myself. You just get in there. And some people do go in there to get drugs. So you just
they just purposely, oh, I'm this and that. They go in there. They get.
You can say that if you're in front of a cop and you say you're gonna hurt yourself, or if you call them, hurt myself, you get admitted just like that.
That's crazy.
So you don't have to be in psychosis to go. Your parent can call, somebody can call and say she's depressed, and they first question, you gonna hurt yourself? Yeah, I might. Now you're admitted in there. So you can be in your right mind in there.
Okay, so no, he most likely probably knew what was getting done.
Yeah, because when it sounded like somebody was coming, he ran. So it's not like he was out of his mind.
He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. Definitely. That's just, once again,
and while I'm in the psych ward, this is my brother's trial. So I'm in there, his trial is going on. They had caught the guy. This is a year later. The guy had caught the guy who was on the run, and they had caught him 3 months after he murdered my brother. So now that I'm in the psych ward, it's my brother's trial. My mom and dad's at the trial in Georgia.
That's just wow.
And I'm in Virginia.
That's just you I can't even say it's a documentary.
I tried my best. I said, let me just jot these down so it won't be so long. No worries.
No, not that it's like being long or nothing like that. It's like, I'm talking about in terms of what you've been through. Like, it's almost every time you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, things have gotten more relaxed. Things have gotten, but it's like, no, until we got back, I'm like, man, it's like you really went through a whole lot, you know? And so, but now in terms of, talk about, in terms of how, like, you are now, and like, what is it that you are now in terms of your faith and how you got to how you were, and how did that come about?
Okay, well, to where I am now. Okay, well, you would need this last story to bring
go ahead.
Bring you into where I am today. This is only one more. So after that, getting out psych ward, I started back feeling how I did before. I'm worthless. I'm not anything, because of the rapes and stuff. So then after that, that's when it started being problems, like in the little marriage with the lady, because of me going back down there with the guy, and just, she already had, like, wasn't really caring or anything like that. So that's why I said I was already going to the clubs and stuff, trying to fill that void. So now I'm, I think I had just made 25 at that time. So at that time, I started saying, okay, well, she's like, oh, it's not working out. I don't want to be together. So we ended up going to separate rooms. I said, okay, that's fine and everything. And, I was still in college. So then after that, it's like, she tried to make it harder on me, because my whole life, it's like, as many problems I had with her, I would beg her. I would try to work it out, like no matter how bad she treated me, because I felt like it was better than the situation that I was in before. Like with that guy, at least nobody's hitting me, nobody's beating me up. So no matter how much she wasn't caring or nothing, I still tried to change me no matter what to make this person like me or whatever. So we started sleeping in separate rooms. I finally said, I'm going to stop begging this person. And I didn't know anybody there because of not been out for a year. So I went on the internet, I started finding friends. And when I started going out with friends and stuff, because now I had my license back right before I went to the hospital, before I drove to Virginia, I got my license back on my birthday. So now I was going out again. Same old habits, because me and her had this big strain between us. So now that I was finding friends and I wasn't begging her anymore, now she's making it hard on me. She signs me this paper and tells me, I want to separate, you need to get out of here in 30 days. And I'm like, well, where am I going to go? My family's in Chicago and in Hawaii. I don't know anybody in Georgia. She says, figure it out. So I get on the internet. I'm applying for work everywhere because I already had one college degree that I got in 2011. So now I'm just looking everywhere for work, but she only gave me 30 days. So that friend I found on the internet, started hanging out with her and her husband. They were doing pills and cocaine and stuff. And they looked like a seemingly innocent couple, but when I started hanging out with them, I started doing cocaine with them, and I started doing pills and stuff with them. And then after that, she's still pressuring me every day. When are you going to get out? When are you going to get out? Then she started locking me out. Like I had a key, but she would lock an additional lock. So it's like, if you're not here when I say you're here, you can't get in. Yeah. But now she's locking me out, and now she's telling me I have to get out. So I get on the internet, I find these girls, and that's how, at this time, I ended up going into the life of prostitution. Where I'm speed up. So, because I felt like, yes, I could have, called my mom, but to me, what would the cost have been? Just the year before that, before I went to the psych ward, her and the lady had kicked me out outside while I'm visiting, and I had nowhere to go. So for me, I felt like with my mom, it always came with a cost. I'm going to throw everything in your face. I'm your mother. I did this for you. You're a screw up. You messed everything up. Whatever it is she tells me. And I'm like, I'd rather go through this, since I'm nothing anyways, since people will keep raping me anyways. I'd rather go through this than have to go through back with living with her. And I knew my dad wasn't going to help me. So I get into this lifestyle, for a short period of time. I was already feeling suicidal. So now I'm back doing the drugs, back doing alcohol, back doing all the things that I was doing before. So now I'm doing these things worse than what I was doing before. Move out of the house with the lady because, she was pressuring me to get out and everything. Get my own place. And then I had all my brother's items with me because I took that stuff to keep for him. And he has 3 sons that he left behind. I was going to give it to them. And when I got to my own place, I was talking to some girl, and this just shows how the homosexual lifestyle, it just always leads to something darker. She was living with me because she didn't have anywhere to go, and I knew what it was like to be homeless and everything. And when I had left the house that day to go back to talk to my, the lady I was with, I came back the next day and my entire place was empty. I had been robbed. Everything was gone. My brother was murdered. So all his clothes, everything I can remember him by, all his stuff was gone. All my stuff was gone. So this leads to how I got the arrest, because when I seen all that stuff and the police wasn't doing anything about it, and the little girl was telling them my furniture was over here and over there, had my brother's furniture too, I yelled out loud that I'm going to kill her. I said, I'm going to kill her. I was so angry. And then the cops said, well, I got to take you to jail because that's a terroristic threat. So now he takes me to the station and all that stuff. I got out on bail, but they were telling me I needed to get an attorney or lawyer or whatever, because they said it's a serious charge and it's a felony. So now I'm dealing with all that stuff. And, by the grace of God, he, got me out of that situation. But so after that time, I had, gotten out of that lifestyle. And what brings me up to where I am now is that same year that I was into all those things, like I said, when I was 25, I actually had met my husband at that time, because when I had got back with the lady, with the so-called wife, we had went to Chicago to see my dad for the 4th of July, back then. So I actually met him at the cookout at that time, but I still was, we were just friends. I just met him, how you just meet a person, and that's it. So I went back to Hawaii because she had to go on another thing for work. And when I got there, that's what she tells me. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm missing the story. When I had moved out and did all my own stuff, she came back to me like, oh, I'm sorry, I want you to come back. So that's why I was there talking with her when the girl got robbed my house. So I was being nice and said I'll go back to her. So after I went back to her for a couple months, I went to Hawaii to visit my mom, and she called me and tells me, I don't want to be with you, by the way. I'm sending all your stuff. And just shipped all my stuff out there. So during that time, I did a lot of reaching out to God. I started journaling in this journal that I had, and I would just write to God every day, like a diary, just writing to him, getting close to him. I started spending time with God, just alone time by myself. And the more I started doing that, I felt like he started answering my questions in that journal. Like I would be writing stuff and I'll read it, and like he was answering my questions. And it's like, when I got down there, I had gotten to a homosexual act. And it's almost like God was taking away the desire of these wicked things from my heart. It's like he made me feel the way about it that he felt about it. So after this situation, I felt dirty. I felt sick. I felt disgusted. I couldn't even look at the person. And I didn't even want to do that anymore. It's like he started placing on my heart, instead of just yelling and telling me, don't do this, that's bad. He actually showed me, allowed me to feel and see how he felt when you do these detestable things. Once he showed me that, I didn't know it was God showing me. I just thought, just get away from that person. But I started feeling a change within me. I started feeling around that time, me not drinking anymore, me not smoking anymore. It's like the more I was getting closer to God, it's like he was stripping away all the sinful things in my life, And as that time was going on, that's when the devil was using my mom to try to put all those things back in my life.
You're always gonna have somebody. The devil's gonna have to fight. Right. Whatever a lifestyle you coming out of, devil's always gonna have somebody trying to pull you back in. And even when you're consistently, in your lifestyle, you're living for God and everything. There's every day you wake up, there's always an option available. Like when I was in Cali, if it was to have sex, would it have been difficult? If it was to get weed, wouldn't it have been difficult? Alcohol, it wouldn't have, it was literally, it would have been all easy, So it's that right there. It's just unfortunate, but it's always going to be there, willing and ready to just pull you back.
Definitely. And he used her during that time to do that, but also around that same time, that's when he, reconnected my husband and I back together, because he actually, I met my husband at my brother's funeral. But naturally, that's not something that I kind of blocked that out. At the funeral, you're just grieving. So I remember, meeting the person, but it was just nothing. I met so many people at the funeral that was just, went on with my life. So at that time, it's like God had reconnected us, and I can see the spiritual warfare. I can see, my mom telling me, no, wear less clothes. No, dye your hair again. Because, it's like, even back then, it's like God was showing me holiness, because, the dye and stuff wasn't in my hair anymore. I was covering my body up. But she's like, no, uncover your body, dye your hair. And when I started talking to my husband, I'm like, man, it's all, I don't want to smoke anymore. I don't want to drink anymore, all these positive things. And my husband, he came from a rough background too, like selling drugs and all those kind of things of the world, kind of like what I was doing. And it was like, he was at the same time, he was like, yeah, I want to change too. I've been wanting to stop smoking weed for so long, but every time I stop, my friends pull me back in. So at that time, we were encouraging each other. Like the spiritual warfare, I can see when he's not on the phone, because at the time, he was in Chicago, I was in Hawaii. So we were just talking on the phone.
Yeah.
And I can see them feeling all this garbage into me. And then when I talk to him, it's like the light is telling me, be positive, stay on track, do this. And then when I talk to them, they're trying to pull me back into darkness.
Yeah.
So, that situation went on. But after that, it was like, when me and my husband got together, they weren't able to influence me because now I had that voice. I wasn't afraid to say, no, I don't want to do these things anymore because I had somebody backing me up. And not just backing me up, but taking those steps with me, getting rid of those things, putting those things down. And the more things that, God had me strip away, the more God came in and supped with me. It was like the more obedience that we did, the more we seen God. The more he came into our life, the more we obeyed.
No, I understood. I completely understand what you mean. Like you're starting to put the work in. And
Definitely.
Because a lot of times people just want God to just do things, and you can't get good overnight. It obviously didn't happen overnight. It was a step-by-step process, gradual thing, and you just you finally started to put the work in, because there was always a restart, pretty much, or a relapse, as people will say. Like, you'll stop and then you do it again, stop. But this time, just it started inside, where that hate for it started to develop, and disgust, or whatever you were going through inwardly. And so now that you're going through these things, where do you end up, like, going from there? Like, you stop the smoking, stop the drinking, and stop the drugs, get out that homosexual lifestyle. Where do you go after that?
I would just say up, because it's like, really what it was is that I didn't know the Most High's voice. And I know you were saying like changes weren't necessarily happening overnight. That's because at the beginning, I didn't even know that it was him talking to me, because I was so used to lukewarm, churches and things just saying, come as you are, do what you want, or seeing a pastor at church and then he's at a card game on the weekend and he's drinking and stuff. So I just and they do that. So I'm just thinking like, okay, so we started off, like my husband and I, we started off going, because he moved to Hawaii from Chicago. So we started out like going to church, thinking like, okay, let's go to church. And then after that, we started less, hanging around, certain people. Yeah. And then it really helped, because when we got pregnant with our first daughter, our first child, I don't know, from what I've learned is that some women, they will get pregnant and that's not enough for them to say no to everything. So the day that we found out I was pregnant, I got rid of the cigarettes, didn't touch alcohol, none of that stuff, the entire pregnancy. So it's like, as I was learning, God's voice, it's like, first, that stuff got put down. Then after the baby was born, we were drinking again, but what we were doing is we weren't going to the clubs anymore. We weren't hanging out at parties anymore. We were just at home. So we're thinking, okay, if we're just drinking at home, that's not a problem. Yeah. So we have to grow in actually learning God's word. So for us, the reason why it seemed like little by little was because we were learning as we were going. Okay. So even when we started back drinking, when we learned, because I think we probably started back drinking in December of 16, but we learned about drinking being bad in like 2017 March. And then we just put it completely down. So for us, it's like, we wanted to grow further in God.
When you say learn, where did you learn it from?
We heard it was like some teachers back then. I was in school and I was in college, and they had some hate groups that they listed, some hate groups, and we had to write a paper about it. So they had the KKK on there, Hebrew Israelites on there, and another group. I don't remember what the other group was, but I had already known about the KKK since I was little. So when we typed on the Hebrew Israelite thing, the hate group that they had up there, that wasn't the group that we had heard it from. But by typing on that group, they had other, suggestions that would come up. And for a short period of time, we would watch these young men, and they would just be talking about certain things. And that's how when I first learned about, women not wearing pants, not celebrating pagan holidays. And we also learned on there, we didn't know in the Bible, they're about talking about certain foods and dietary laws and things like that. And we had learned about alcohol. he was saying how, it was in the Bible about not drinking and drunkards and stuff like that. So we're like, wow. So we would actually turn to the pages and find these things. And what God led us to know was that it wasn't a particular, he didn't lead us to like any particular teacher. That's what I want to say. Like how the Bible in 1 John 2:27 says, the Holy Spirit teacher all things. What he did was he used certain people for certain messages and certain things for certain areas in our walk at that time. So there was never one person that God told us, listen to that man, that's your all until I come back to this earth. Never. So when we listen to them for that short period of time, then it's like he had us move on. We continue studying our word, we continue learning and growing, and we just never stop. We never stop being hungry. So when we found out about the pants and all the things I just told you about, back then I had 14 piercings, and I had, I don't know how many tattoos I had. I don't know if it's like 7, 8, but I had 14 piercings. So I was I still had piercings on. So I started feeling like, dang, I wonder if God's okay with piercings. Like we started going further and we prayed about it. We waited on it. We couldn't find nobody nowhere saying that piercings wasn't okay. So that was in 2017. Mind you, like I said, after we found out the drink, we stopped the pagan holidays, stopped the drinking. We wasn't going to parties no more. We wasn't hanging out around people that were doing these kind of things. We really just stayed in the house. Now because we were living back in Chicago. We really just stayed in the house and studied. That's all we did. And then after that, a year later, after I was asking God, in 2017, that's when he instructed me to get on YouTube and start making videos about coming out of homosexual lifestyle and other things. And when we got there, we moved back to Hawaii. That's when I was still looking for the whole piercing thing, couldn't find anything. And then I ended up seeing a video by Grace and Mercy Unto You at the time, which her name is Tiffany Simone. And I just couldn't believe that. That's why, like I said, God never sent us to a specific person. It's not a specific person that you follow. It's the spirit. So when a message is being given, like how I said, the devil can use people that are wicked. God can use anybody. So all those things that I was praying to God about, by him making me wait almost a year or about a year, not only did I learn that, I learned a lot more all at once. Because in the video that she was talking about, it wasn't just talking about basic holiness. And I have to say this, I call it basic holiness. Basic holiness is when people just say, women got to wear pants, they can't wear jewelry, makeup, and that's it. God led me to someone that because he knew that my spirit resided, and he knows that my personality is about going further and growing in him. And what that was that wasn't basic holiness. That was holiness 101, to the point of learning about, not only I learned about the piercings, learned about the makeup, not only about wearing dresses, but how dresses are supposed to be to your ankle, your dresses and skirts, and flowy, not tight. She talked about long sleeves. And I didn't make these changes because she said it. When she was speaking, the spirit resided, what she was saying, into me. What I had been looking for that year, what I had been asking about that year, about changing things that I needed to change that, wasn't of him, about being holy, about being righteous, So then at that time I was learning too about not wearing high heels, that's demonic, about not straightening your hair, and how the Bible verse says not wearing braided hair. So the Most High knows, like with me, it's further. It's always further. It's always up, up, up. It's not bare minimum. So that's what it's another thing too I want to say is, with homosexuals, the devil will trick you because you'll think, hey, I got out of homosexuality, I overcame, I'm going to heaven. But the devil does that because you just stop right there. That's as if I just stopped right there. When I came out homosexual, if I just stopped, we still had the cigarettes, still had the alcohol, still wasn't holy, then you're still the devil's child. The devil still has you. All you can say is, I've overcome homosexuality, but I have not yet reached holiness. And without holiness, no man will see God. So I went further. I never stopped. After getting holiness outward down pat, I'd already worked on inward. I didn't stop there. God, what else is there that will keep me from getting to your kingdom? And the more we speak to him, the more he showed us. We already knew things like no watching pornography. Then that's when he talked about masturbation. And that's when he talked about when certain sexual positions, people don't know that are demonic, that we can't do. And he taught us that missionary is his only way. So we just kept going further. The more we seek him, we never felt like we arrived. We never felt like, oh, I gave that up, that's enough. Never. Everything that the Most High said, you got to give that up for me. That's not holy. You got to become holy. We just kept going. That's what we do to this day. We keep going. We still get trials. The devil still tries to attack us. He can't attack us against each other, my husband and I, because, you know, we're faithful to each other and we have a marriage model, a godly marriage. So all he can do is attack us from outside things because he can't make us turn on each other. So he has to try to attack us from outside things. So we still have trials and tribulations, but we've never stopped going further. Oh. So what I'm doing now is further. And any person along the way, like I said, he showed us that they've just been, how do I say this? They've been steps along the road. Anybody we've learned anything from, their steps along the road, but never to be like, you gotta be there with that person forever and never grow forward and keep going. And he says that because that person may be stuck on level 25. And where I'm trying to take you is to level 3,000. So you may learn from that person in that season of time, but you got to continue to grow and go forward as the Holy Spirit teaches you and takes you forward. And that's what we do.
Oh, so in terms of all that you came out of and all that you're in now, you're fully done with that lifestyle, you can say, in terms of homosexuality and weed and everything like that. You're fully, completely done with that lifestyle, you can say.
Yes, as far as homosexuality, when he delivered me out of the lifestyle, the only thing that I would say is that the devil will try to give you desires to go back in that lifestyle. But for me, I didn't desire like, oh, I want to be in this lifestyle again. But the devil will try to put you back into those places. So one thing people got to remember is when you got that lifestyle, you got to get rid of those. I'm not saying you can't leave your phone line available if those homosexual friends are trying to find their way to Christ. Yes, answer your phone and minister to them. But as far as thinking that y'all just gonna talk every day, you're gonna still go to clubs with them and stuff like that, that's setting yourself up to be dragged back into that. It's like when you stop doing cocaine or crack, you're not gonna go sit in a crack house and think, oh, just keep sitting around these drugs every day and think the devil's not gonna tempt you to try to do those drugs. So he will try to throw things at your way, but that lifestyle completely over. All the sins that, you know, the devil tried to drag me into, the fornication, the guilt, the shame, all that stuff. It's like when Christ came into my life, it's like he removed all those things. He removed all that guilt and shame, that emptiness that I had of not, you know, feeling like I had the proper parenting and structures and things like that. Because what people don't realize is when they get into these lifestyles, a lot of times it is a crutch. Not everybody was molested and raped because, like I told you, a couple of girls I was with, they didn't even have those things happen to them. But Satan can plant a seed. Their situations was like, I don't know, older girls coming onto them and liking them and wanting to date them. You know, that's planting a seed as well. Media, TV, movies, you know, all that stuff can plant a seed. But no, I have no desire. Since been delivered, never went back to their lifestyle, have a husband, 4 children, you know, never went back to it, never thought to go back to it. And, you know, Satan, people need to know that Satan is going to attack them every day, because a lot of times the church teaches just get out of the lifestyle. And they don't teach you that when you get out of any sin, you are a direct threat to Satan's kingdom. So now you're a target. Now you're an enemy. He's going to be at your head all the time. And the church doesn't teach that. So at the very second somebody feels pressure on them, they go back into sin, any of the sins that they're in, because they think, oh, why isn't God protecting me from this sin, instead of fighting? Oh. Spiritual warfare.
Wow. So this was a very good interview, a very good podcast, very informative, very educational. You were in depth, you know, in terms of everything you've been through. I'm truly grateful and appreciate that you're able to take the time to
Thank
come out and everything and share your story. As you know, it was a bit rough. You know, you went through some stuff and stuff that could be kept in people right now, and then somebody that's gonna watch this or that is watching this right now, um, they're probably going through this. So my ultimate goal is that somebody that is watching this, you could see this video and a difference can be made in terms of your situation of maybe how to come out or what people are going to trick you with, because there's a lot of tricks, right? There's, oh, I'll give you a coin, or if you tell this is going to happen, that is going to happen, and so forth. And so I'm truly grateful for this. I'm truly appreciative for all of this and stuff like that. This was like I said, I'm really sorry, for what you went through. I don't think any kid should, have to go through that, but you've gone through it, and there's probably so many other ones out there as well who have gone through it. So uh, uh, um I'm I'm just like, wow, you've been through a lot. You've been through a whole lot, So I mean, I'm gonna knock off and all that, because for me, I'm a type of person, I can go until probably tomorrow.
you. Yeah, me too.
So
I can't too. Yeah, it's just important. The most important part is, if anybody wants to get anything through all of this, the only reason why I shared so much is because I wanted to show people that those doors, you want to keep those doors closed as much as you can. I know we're only humans, but as parents, you want to keep those doors closed, because Satan will use anything. He will use a bad breakup. They be like, oh, you should do that sin. So you want to keep those doors closed so that, if you give him an inch, he's going to take them out. And all that trauma and stuff I've been through was just like that, people say, that community, oh, love is love, everybody will accept you here, you can be who you want. It's like the devil makes you feel like an outcast and like nobody loves you, and then tells you, well, this lifestyle, everybody will love you. Come and be yourself, and then you start promoting it to everybody. Now I'm taking pictures with these women, and now people are thinking that this is okay,
Thank once again, Toya, thank you very much.
Thank you for
Those of you have it, leave your comments below, questions, whatever the case is, and whatnot. This was the I Thrive podcast. We're gonna knock off, truly, truly grateful. I'm gonna try to bring more stuff. And look, like I said, there's other things I'm obviously trying to bring, things regarding, porn addiction, or people who just been addicted to drugs, or whatever the case is. I just have to work with the niche I have. So there's gonna be more and different content for you all. I don't want you to think, oh, he's doing this, he really must hate us, he must really have a hate on this community. No, it's a niche I can get at the moment. It's not as easy to find other things, but God willing, once I can, it will come, and hopefully it will educate you. That concludes today's episode. All of you that were watching, thank you very much. Share this with your friends and your friends' friends and your friends' friends, your family, and this and that, and and hopefully this could definitely educate people. Mrs. Toya, thank you very much for taking the time to come out. Really appreciative of it. I'm very grateful of it. I don't take it for granted. Like I really actually do. I really sincerely appreciate it. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
No problem. No problem. Those of you that were here watching and listening, this concludes episode 31. Once again, this podcast is sponsored by Je Veux Jouer. Go to jeveuxjouer.ca. You can also tune into First Church of our Lord Jesus Christ, where the leader, teaching guide is Apostle Pastor Gino Jennings. Thank you all. Take care, and peace be unto you all.
God bless.